Please join me in saying our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Clive. We have a presentation tonight, presentation from Simply Healthy Nutrition regarding contribution to the West Jordan Police Department Peer Support Program.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce a couple members of our peer support program, Sergeant Holly Lane, who's a detective sergeant, and also our community service officer, Paula Merrill. She can come up as well. I'd also like to present Al Richards from Simply Healthy Nutrition, who would like to make a donation to our peer support program. So.
Thank you, Richard. My partner, Philo, is here as well. He's actually the owner of Simply Healthy Nutrition. So a lot of these officers come into our club to get their nutrition shake and their tea and stuff. And we just wanted to give something back to them. I was actually on the Utah Backs Our Blue committee where we did a 5K walk up the state capitol. So that's kind of what gave me the idea. Just met with Philo, and Philo said, absolutely, these guys come in and support us all the time, so let's give back to our officers, our great men and women who protect our community here. So Holly and Paula, since Popeyes is not here as well, and we did a fundraiser through Popeyes, they raised $229.67 for you. So that will go towards that. And then Philo has a check here for you as well for $250 to go towards your peer support program. So thank you guys. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll move to communications. City Manager?
Nothing that's not in the agenda already, Mayor. Thank you.
City Attorney?
Nothing from the City Attorney's Office.
David?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Brian Clegg?
Nothing tonight.
Phil?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Justin?
Nothing tonight, thanks, Mayor.
Chief McElroy?
I'm going to break the streak. Just two items. Coming up in October, the week of October 23rd through the 28th is, as you know, the month of October is Cancer Awareness Month. The fire department, again, this year, this is our 6th year in doing it, and we offer it to other city employees as well to wear pink in recognition of breast cancer. So our firefighters will be wearing pink t-shirts during that week, and we'll have more information for other city employees that may want to do the same thing. We'll have t-shirts for sale, and that information will be coming out in an email later this week. Second item is I reported our last council meeting, the fire department participated in a chili cook-off event, which is an event to raise money for burn camp in order to send kids to the burn camp. Appreciate Councilmember Zach Jacob for coming out. This year we placed second place, but more importantly, we raised over $12,000 for the burn camp, which was the most we've raised in the last 6 years we've been doing this event. So, thank you.
Chief Davis?
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilmember Rice?
Thank you. I wanted to thank the public for coming out in force tonight. It's nice to see you participating in the process. And I'm sorry there's just not enough seats for everybody, but thank you for coming tonight.
Councilmember Jacob?
Thank you, Mayor. Whoa, you can turn me down too. I was able to attend a press conference a couple of weeks ago that County Mayor Ben McAdams put on regarding the growth along the Mountain View Corridor, the economic development, and the potential that we have there. Still, unfortunately, it's still potential, but you know, we take the hand we're dealt. Regarding that commission that he proposed, we have a similar body already doing what he's talking about. That is West Side Cities working together. And that's our Western Growth Coalition headed by our former chamber president, Craig Daring, and others. Apparently that gets really well attended by West Side mayors and council members, along with legislators. The county council's been invited, and from what I understand, their representatives have come a few times. I would like to, as a city, look at legitimizing that body into what was being proposed by Mayor McAdams, and see that come together under the umbrella that's already existing, instead of reinventing the wheel here. Legitimizing that with maybe interlocal agreements, maybe with other cities in our city and the county, maybe a formal, I don't know, a formal membership process, like each council appoints somebody to it or something along those lines. Anyway, it's a process that's already underway, and I think we could and should probably take the lead on that, as most of that undeveloped land, or at least a large chunk of it, is in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly. Councilmember Hager.
Nothing, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Burton.
Nothing tonight, thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick items. First of all, thanks to staff, in particular our risk manager, for quick responsiveness to citizen concerns that came to me that I was able to send over his direction that were just very quickly, professionally taken care of, and want to send the thanks to the residents his way. Also to David Oka and Development as well. There were a couple different residents this week who have had some issues come up, and they've been very, very quick and responsive. Same with Code Enforcement and Brock. The other item I wanted to bring up was that I was able to run into some of our police officers this week who are training for their upcoming canine competition in Las Vegas, and wanted to say thank you to them for taking time out to, I've got a little 3-year-old boy who's a big fan of the cartoon Paw Patrol, and he was even more excited to see the real life version. So I wanted to thank the police department for taking a little bit of time for just for time with my family, with some of the others who happened to be there, and see them, and also wish them the best of luck in the competition this weekend. I know they always do phenomenally well, and I'm excited to hear what awards they will have won at our next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move now to the citizens' comment portion. I have several signed up to speak tonight on various subjects. You'll be allowed 3 minutes on the topic of your choice, and we will start with those that have signed up. Jennifer Gardner.
That was faster than I expected it to be. Thank you. I just came tonight. My reason for being here is I wanted to discuss briefly about your Victims Advocate program that you guys have here. I work for Channel 4. One of my jobs is to listen to police scanners from West Jordan to Weaver to Lehigh, and I listen to the calls for crimes all day, every day. The domestic violence crimes that I hear in West Jordan City are astronomical. I know we have a lot of citizens here, but I'm also very aware, after attending the Domestic Violence Coalition's conference last year, that you guys have very few detectives assigned to domestic violence cases, which therefore, to help with that burden, would rely on victims advocates. The tragic consequential case of Leo Sanchez comes to mind as somebody who works in the media and sees these cases all the time. A letter came across my desk not that long ago about Veronica Bastillos, I believe is how you say her name. She was a victims advocate here in the city of West Jordan. She had several victims advocates that were volunteers that were underneath her, who are now, after she just recently lost her job and has not been given any reason for this, not only is a Sanchez family at a critical time without an advocate, the city is now have volunteers that are at a loss for direction. In 2005, I lived in the city of West Jordan, where I do still live, and at the time, I had an incident at my house with my prior abusive ex-husband. The city of West Jordan responded, but no victim advocate. 3 months later, without knowing any resources or anything about that, I almost ended up dead and in an ICU unit. Had I had a victim advocate, whether it be a volunteer or whether it be paid, the city, the state, who paid for all of my medical expenses, could have possibly, I literally probably cost the city more money in medical expenses without having any resources because I was closed off to the outside world. And that is the only way you can get to me, is through a victim advocate when you respond. I understand, for whatever reason, the city may not have that many. The cost of medical care for these victims of various crimes, things that advocates go out on, people that understand fully what these victims are going through, is imperative. Without a paid advocate, you're going to have volunteers that drop off because they're confused, they don't know what to do, and these victims don't know where to go. I urge this city to re-look at their victims advocates programs here and help the citizens of this city understand what to do, where to go, and how to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Askett? Matt? Les Mascherino? Casey Stallone?
Hi, my name is Casey Stallone, and I am also here on behalf of the advocates. We understand that the program's being changed to chaplains, and unfortunately, until you're on the other side of needing an advocate, you don't really understand the impact that they have in someone's life. I do a lot of charity work, and sometimes with people that that aren't all mentally there, and had to have use of an advocate. And I cannot tell you how important it is to have someone when you're going through the most traumatic experiences of your life to support you, to walk you through, to answer questions. Based on my experience, I actually started a foundation for divorced men. And Veronica reached out to me because she had also started a support for men who have been through abuse. And I firmly, firmly believe that in this world we have not given proper edification to the men in our life. And we shove it under the rug and we assume that they're all okay, but they've all been through traumatic experiences, and as a society we don't really encourage them to come forward and get help. And I think it's invaluable that if we want the children of our youth to be different, then we have to reinstate the fathers. And Veronica had a huge passion for helping men through this, as I do. And due to her not being a part of that program or not being on the board anymore, that's kind of been pushed on the wayside. So I really, really encourage you to please take a look at the advocacy group program and understand the important role that Veronica played. Thank you.
Thank you. Susie Horman? Kimberly Mascherino?
Thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of Jordan Hollow, which is on Agenda 7B. Speaking on behalf of my family and my father. My dad started working with the city back in November of 2005 to get the process going of rezoning the land that we own. And unfortunately, my father passed away in March of 2016. And my hope is tonight that I can share with you the potential and vision he had for the land that we own. Our family has owned this land since the 1960s. It was my grandfather's. My father and his siblings inherited it from him, and then on to my father and our family. We are so very grateful for the support and knowledge of your city staff and employees and engineers who have led us and guided us through this process. And we have taken great consideration to their recommendations and requests, and we really do hope that we've come up with a plan that is compatible to what the suggestions have been made to us. On the north side of the property, there's 5 acres that are already zoned for the R-1-10 lots. Our request is to continue to have the rest of the land zoned, and we hope that would unify the neighborhood by doing so. and would adhere to the city's master plan for the medium-density housing. The future roads would be connected to the existing subroads in the adjacent neighborhoods and would provide for better traffic flow and better emergency access. And this was done at the recommendation of city staff. The city engineer supports this, as well as the traffic study that has been done. My dad's hope and vision for this land was to offer the individual a land or a piece of a lot that they can be able to buy and build their own home on. And I don't think that's something that you can find very much lately. Right now, it's really hard. My dad was a general contractor and a small home builder, and he held on to this land because he had a vision for it. There were many times he politely declined offers through the years from larger home builders to purchase this land, and he held on to it because he believed in the potential of letting an individual come in or a small home builder come in and build on this land. And we are grateful again to the city and express this desire to you. Thank you on behalf of our family and my father.
Thank you. Jackie Horman?
Thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. I would reiterate a lot what my daughter just said. This property has been in our family for over 50 years. We've paid taxes on it for 50 years, and always at the request of Jordan City when we've been asked to clean the vacant lots we have. My husband did have a vision. He was a small home builder. Several years ago, he wanted to build some homes for our children and was unable to purchase just a lot unless he went to a big home builder to do so. 3 of our 6 married children have lived in West Jordan. I've had grandchildren who attend Mountain Shadows Elementary, go to Copper Hills High School. We spend a lot of time in West Jordan, and I do my fair shopping at Jordan Landing also. I would appreciate, and I wish to take the opportunity to thank your planning staff for the kindness and consideration they've showed our family. And I would especially like to take the opportunity to publicly thank Mrs. Hanson on your planning commission for her knowledge, her kindness, and her wisdom that she shared to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Horman?
I'm the last of the family to get up, but again, we appreciate this opportunity to come forward with you guys today, and primarily just want to echo, you guys have a great city planning commission, especially with the passing of my father. They've been more than considerate, bent over backwards to help us, and more than anything, we just want to make sure that our gratitude is expressed. And also from the last meeting, we definitely heard the public and their concerns with traffic. We did hire a separate traffic engineer from the city to do his own report, which is in the study. And so we wanted to make sure that was something we heard and that we tried to acknowledge as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Candy Bronson? David Short?
Thank you. I was surprised I was not notified. This is for 7B also. I was surprised I was not notified by the city. I was informed by the neighbors about this new development that they wanted to rezone because I don't live within 300 feet of the development. But it will affect me and everyone in the neighborhood and 40th West. As a city council, you invite us to planning and city-county meetings, and you ask us for our input, and you listen. But we want you to hear us. I am against the rezone in Jordan Meadows subdivision that would make lots about 10,000 square feet, especially the rezone of the 1.74 acres at the end of Susan Way, which there are already homes on 1 acre zone lots with farm animals and flood irrigation that runs down the south of the property and joins in a ditch on the east side of the property. And try to put basically 4 houses and a street corner next to the existing houses on 1-acre lots to access the 21.4-acre lots on the other side of a canal after building some type of bridge, and then using traffic calming bumps to slow down traffic on our streets. Have you ever tried to pull a horse trailer loaded with horses over multiple speed bumps? It makes everybody unhappy, including the horses. While the landowner has every right to try and develop the property, they have no right to dramatically affect the property around them by dramatically increasing the traffic flow down our streets onto 40th West. 40th West is already a traffic nightmare during the morning and evening rush hours, and anytime something is going on at the park on 40th West and 7800 South. I live on 8350 South. That's horseshoes with 8250 South, which keeps traffic to a minimum, and that's good because most of us have horses and other farm animals that we load and unload with minimal traffic, and the traffic that does come through knows all about the struggle with livestock, and that traffic moves cautiously. If rezoning is permitted and 4 to 5 times the amount of traffic is allowed through the neighborhood that did not grow up around livestock and the items associated with them, that's an invite for accidents. Most of us have barns and outbuildings that contain thousands of dollars in equipment for our land and animals that now would be seen by extra hundreds of passerbys, both walking and driving, and make easy targets for theft. I am not opposed to the development of the land the way it is zoned, just the access through our streets. There are 3 access points for the development. The third access that everybody will use, and we all know it, is on down Susan Way onto 40th West, which will access 8350 South. If you need access for emergency vehicles for the way it is zoned now, then put in a crash gate at Susan Way and leave our subdivision alone. We don't want the extra traffic. Please keep the zoning the way it is and don't dramatically affect our way of living. Thank you.
Thank you. Clifford Fields?
Thank you. I've lived in West Jordan for probably almost 60 years. And in fact, I used to inspect for West Jordan and that. But there's been a lot of changes made. And one thing I haven't heard is what are they planning on doing with their irrigation water going through this subdivision? I have no idea, but they got to take care of our irrigation water. They just can't cut it off and let it go. And I don't think we need to add another 60, 70 cars on either one of these streets going through there. If they're going to do it, at least make it 1-acre lots like all the rest of the subdivision is. Thank you.
Thank you. Clyde Kilpack? Karen Yakovich?
Hi. I am also on 7B. I'm going to talk about that. Change is inevitable. It's going to happen. They're going to build there. However, the development will greatly impact and not only increase our traffic in all our neighborhoods, but it will also, it will also increase the children in our overcrowded schools. Currently, the property is in the boundary of Columbia Elementary. They currently use 2 portables. There are 2 buses that stop at the top of 8400 West and 4000 South. Sorry, other way around. It's the Villa West Trailer Court. One bus currently has 3 students per seat. The second bus has 2 students per seat. Even with the new connecting streets on Maple Way and 3620 West, there will still be no access to the walkway that goes over Bangerter. Those children will have to go out to 7800 South and walk across or go through the neighborhood, which is more than a mile. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want my young child walking across the on and off ramps to get to school on Bangerter safely. There's already high density from houses from 8400 South to 90th South, medium and high density above 7800 South. We are the only low density subdivision. Huntington Estates neighborhood does not have sidewalks. With the increased traffic, our concern is with our children's safety. 25 feet of asphalt and no sidewalks with a car parked on each side does not leave enough room for cars to pass and a child to walk safely. You cannot possibly tell us that you will not provide us with sidewalks. Will the city be funding those sidewalks, or will our property tax be raised? If it will, what do we have to do to utilize the federal sidewalk grant? The increase from 41 homes to 82 homes will most definitely increase the traffic. The traffic analysis was done in August of this year, 2016. If so, was school in session at that time? It does not give an exact date. If it was not, then it needs to be done again. How can we possibly determine the through traffic cutting through the tracks, through to go to tracks or the hospital? The landowner representative stated in the last meeting, what was the landowner supposed to do? Not develop the land? We know it's his land, but why can't he develop it the way it was purchased in half acres? Building double the houses than what was originally planned is greed over the safety of our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Meredith Llewellyn? There'll be no displays.
Okay. I actually don't know the woman that just spoke, but I'm here to speak on something similar. Actually the same thing. I'm Meredith Llewellyn, and I live on Maple Leaf Way, which will be one of the access routes for this new subdivision in 7B. I'm also the current PTA president at Columbia Elementary, which the students would attend, and I've been on the school community council there for over a dozen years. And I'm here to address the safety for these students. For the last dozen years, the city has agreed that we have already a hazardous walk situation for our students that live in our neighborhood. Because when the safe walk overpass was created for our students, when Bangerter was adjusted, the city had agreed that there needed to be access created from the Lindsay Estates 3850 West neighborhood to connect to 3850 West where the safe walk overpass comes in. And that has never been done. Now, with the additional homes that are projected by the new developer, this will dramatically increase the number of students that have to walk the route that was just described to you, down 40th and 78th and under Bangerter. It is easy for a developer to connect these two neighborhoods, which the city has signed off on the Safe Walk Plan for 12 years. I have a copy of it. It's been in there every year. I am asking, that this burden be placed on the developer before they encourage families to move into this neighborhood. That they are the ones that make sure that those children will have a safe access. There was discussion about buses. The current homes are actually within walking distance of the school. They won't be adding to the buses. It's not a school district problem, it is a city problem. And I think that it really needs to be a developer problem, that they create a safe route for our children to walk and for their residents to walk. In our SNAP plan, it is item 3. We have suggested that properties be purchased and realigned boundaries to create a safe sidewalk to connect them at 3850 West or thereabout, or to create a park if necessary. In the past, we have worked with this when Bill Baranowski was here, and they mostly put it on our backs as citizens to do. I'm asking that the city take on their promises to the students at Columbia and Joel P. Jensen and ask the developers to do their part before they dig the first hole. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlotte Batchelor. Marilyn Morris. Holly Kingston.
Hello, my name is Holly Kingston. I am here to talk about issue 7B. I wanted to bring up that the issues that I brought up at the last meeting, where there is no border between my home, which is the 1 acre lot, and the adjacent triangle lot where there would be the 10,000 square foot homes. There's not any, there's still, in the new plan, I haven't seen anything that addresses having something as some type of barrier between the 1 acre and 10,000 square foot. I do feel like that would be something that would be important to have, considering that we do have the farmland and the different animals that would be causes an issue with the high density housing. I also wanted to mention the thoroughway. It's still listed in the plan. There is concern there with having the additional traffic. I haven't seen anything that would possibly change that. I do want to mention too, and I know that I speak for quite a few people in our neighborhood, we are not against developing, we're just against the road. And I do understand that that is something that the city has asked the developers to take care of and put in. We would like to respectfully ask that consideration be made to potentially just do half-acre lots instead of the 10,000 square foot lots in that small triangle, and put in 3 homes and solidify it as a dead end instead of creating a road that then creates additional traffic for our small farmland neighborhood. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another display. We'll have the chief clear the chamber. Vicki Ashby.
May I speak at the 7B?
You sure can,
Thank
yes. Alexandra Ephraimov.
Mayor and Council, let's pause for a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, may we pause for a moment to reflect upon our common goals before we begin the business of this meeting. We are privileged to gather here together in a system that gives us freedom to participate in our own governance, whether from within or through the strength provided by our personal faiths. We seek wisdom, understanding, fairness, and resolve in the fulfillment of our duties and in the pursuance of our goals. May our differences be respected and our common aspiration of promoting the public good be our guide in carrying out the tasks we are about to undertake. Thank you. I'm still waiting for a particular council member to apologize to the mayor, to the council, to the city of West Jordan for the council members' behavior on April 29th of 2015. In the comments it says that we're all supposed to be disciplined, but this behavior on the 29th, I'm still asking for an apology. Anyway, the other thing, welcome back, Mr. Haga. Nice to have you back. I attended the, I wish I had 10 minutes. I attended the Salt Lake County Council meeting yesterday. I am 1,000,000% against the $90 million bond that they are proposing to Salt Lake County concerning parks and recreation. 31 million of that bond is supposed to be for projects and maintenance. However, they have 11 new projects that are 59 million. I'm against this bond 1,000,000%. And what is so tragic is because they went ahead and last November, the Parks and Recreation, we approved a bond to help with the improvements, and now they're going to try to do $90 million. They said that at the end of 2016, there are some bonds that Salt Lake County, that they're going to end up completely paying for it. So then the comment was made, well, even if it fails, because they have the power, the council has the power to take that money from the bonds that have been paid, that will be paid in December, not give it back to the people, but take it over to this 11 new parks. I'm really against the bond. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Young? Sarah Young? That's all that I have signed up to speak tonight. There are public hearings for tonight, 4 different items. If you're here to speak on one of those, there will be an opportunity later in the meeting. Is there anyone else wishing to speak during citizens' comments at this time? Please state your name and address.
My name is Paul Emmett. I live at 7511 South, 4730 West. In every community, there are givers and there are takers. The secret to creating strong communities within our city is not complicated. Attract givers. Strike a balance where there are more givers and the communities become strong, the city desirable. Attracting givers is simply a matter of trust. Adopt a comprehensive citywide plan that speaks to timeless values, then consistently stick to it. This council has injured the trust of 2 of the city's communities when it decided to sell city open space. This council violated the principles of the city's general plan and broke the unspoken contract, which is a pillar of the city's health, against the unanimous advice of its duly appointed planning commission. It was wrong to do so. I urge this council to come to its senses, repair the injuries, rebuild trust. This council is not the city, but merely its stewards. Do not sell the city's open space. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak? Please come forward. Again, state your name and address, please.
Scott Lamson, 3954 West, 8350 South. I'm not sure I didn't get the paper, but it's the whole 10,000 square foot lot in our subdivision is what I want to talk about. I don't want to beat up the dead horse, but the streets, we need a clear vision of what you intend, or what they intend, what somebody intends to do about the sidewalks and the kid traffic in that subdivision right now. If you're going to make the changes, come drive down the street as it is now and see if you'd want your kids and your grandkids or your grandkids walking down our street with that kind of traffic. Nobody wants to stop your houses. Nobody wants to stop your project. but we need to be sensible about it. And come and look at the subdivision. And come and look if that's really what you would want in your neighborhood and in your front yard. It's just not designed for that. And if they want to make 10,000 square foot lots, great, because they're going to make enough money on it that they can make the improvements to our neighborhood so it's safe for our families, not just their family. Because we have a dream, and we have a vision the same as their family did. And my family's lived in that neighborhood for as many years as their family has owned the property. And we have the same rights and privileges and the same thing that everybody else does. And we don't want to stomp their vision, but we can't just let them stomp ours as well. There's no reason for that. And what are you going to do? You guys ever got woke up at 2 in the morning by hearing a donkey go off? It's funny. I think it's funny. But the guy in that 10,000 square foot house ain't going to think it's funny. All right? When the rooster's crowing and waking him up, he ain't going to think that's so neat. And then there's just going to create more problems. So whatever it is you do, don't go stuff a bunch of houses because we can make a bunch of money and just cause future problems. You guys are the ones that make the decisions for the city. Come to the neighborhood. Okay? It's a rural neighborhood. Every one of us have livestock. There's donkeys, there's horses, there's mules. There's you name it. And that's our dream. Their dream is to build a bunch of houses. Great. Nobody wants to stop them. I'm in construction. I hope they do. Maybe I can get a job over there. But don't mess things up in our neighborhood, and don't get a kid killed walking down the street that might be my kid or my grandkid or one of yours. Think about all those kids got to go to school. Think about them going down 40th West. Think about what you're going to do about that, and you guys make a responsible decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Jacob.
Mayor, just before you clear the courtroom, I just wanted to just explain to everybody that our council rules do say not to applaud, and it's not that we want to eliminate your right to express yourself, but if we allow applause, we have to allow booing, and that doesn't make anybody happy. So we just ask that you keep it to a dull roar, please, after the conversation. That's what the mayor was referring to earlier when he was talking about displays. So I just wanted to make that clear so everybody knows kind of what it says. That's what it says on our agenda on the citizen comments thing. But I welcome you all to applaud or boo me after the meeting, please. I prefer applause. Thanks.
My name's Garth Hardy, 3973 West, 8350 South, on the half-acre lot subdivision. In the Planning Commission, they said they had an overabundance of high-density housing and small lots. In fact, one of the members of that commission said that they had enough for 10 years. West Jordan doesn't need any more high-density housing. If you look at the longevity of your residents, acre and half-acre lots, I think historically will tell you that those people stay longer and are residents of your community and participate more because they stay longer. So let's have people that stay. I've been there 20 years and I'm the newcomer to that subdivision, except for the old people that have passed away or they can no longer take that, and now we have younger people moving in that still want to live in West Jordan and have a rural experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please come forward.
My name is Alan Arco. I live at 7955 South, 2760 West in West Jordan. I'd like to just provide some information on 7C, which is the Hamlet development. We live in the subdivision that is just contiguous to that development to the south. The subdivision's been there for some 36 years, and we currently have 14 plus acres of open space in that subdivision that is watered with secondary water from the canal that's just west of the subdivision. The pump house is actually located, I believe, on the development land, so we do not own that. Prior to approval to this, it would behoove us all to make sure that there's some way that we maintain secondary water. If our council really wants to slow the flow, and I believe you do, I truly believe you do, that would be our only other option, would be to water those 14 acres with culinary water. And we've got the water shares from the canal, the system works fine. So I would just ask that prior to approval of the hamlet development, that be resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, did you want to speak about this gentleman back here? You can.
Hi, I'm John Brand. I live at 3893 West, 8350 South. You've heard a lot from 8350 South tonight. I moved in the neighborhood as a young man, 1977. I've seen the neighborhood grow and the people leave and come. We have a somewhat fairly nice lifestyle with open room, a little bit of elbow room. When I first moved in, it was a great place to raise children because it was a horseshoe and there was no way heavy traffic was going to go through. And it turns out to be a very nice place to live. I would like to see the development, if it's going to go in, and I'm sure it will at some point, be 2 houses per acre. I would not object to that. 4 houses per acre is just way too much. And so if that would happen, I'd remove my objections to that. The other problem we have is a curb and gutter, and we don't particularly want to put curb and gutter in. It stops our ambiance of the neighborhood, and I just want to urge you to reduce the density of population. I drove around town over the weekend, and I was somewhat disappointed to see that most of the things, developments going in are very high density, especially out west, where I used to shoot at the police range by the fire station that's no longer there. But it's all very high density population, and we really need some lower density population where people of like mind to us that live on the 1 acre lots, if they have half acre lots, they'll be able to have porches or have some type of camper or whatever, and still have room enough to have them. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ma'am?
Hi, my name is Sarah Kent. I haven't done this before, so forgive me if I do anything that's out of order or not protocol for this. Anyway, I'm here to just speak on behalf of a very dear friend of mine, Veronica Bustillos. Veronica was recently let go of as a victim's advocate for the city. I've known her for decades. We've been childhood friends, and as a victim's advocate, this is something that's very close and personal to my heart. One, Veronica is somebody that I would, I'd lay down in traffic for her. She's an awesome woman, and she's done amazing things to help people that have had children or family members murdered. This is a cause it's dear to me. I played the role of Claudia Hartley in the movie The Cokeville Miracle. It came out a year or two ago, and just with my affiliation with that film project, I was able to talk to a lot of people that were there during the bombing in Cokeville, Wyoming years ago, and the post-traumatic stress disorder that happens years later, even for people that maybe they weren't killed, maybe the children survived, but they still have PTSD years later from having been involved in that, from having seen those violent actions. So that's one thing to consider. In my own personal family, my 17-year-old cousin was shot and murdered in Las Vegas this year on July 11th. And the devastation that it caused to his immediate family, as well as other extended family, this is my close cousin. It's horrific. We still don't have the murderer caught, and it's painful to know that there is a killer out there that could be bragging to friends about killing my cousin Robert. When Veronica knew about this, she immediately offered her help and her support to my family to just, let me know that there are resources that are out there, explain to me what victims advocates do, how they help the family, and just the empathy that she showed greatly touched me, not only as a friend, but as someone that has a family member that's been murdered. It's hard to explain what that's like when no longer you're identifying yourself as somebody that, this is my cousin, but you join a very, we'll call it, I don't know a better word for it other than a horribly morbid club of people where your family member has been murdered, has been killed. There's oftentimes, so the repercussions, the devastation afterwards are painful for years and years to come, especially when the murderer hasn't been caught. So on behalf of other people, other family members that are going through that, I want to express my concern for the citizens of West Jordan, why Veronica Bustillos was let go of, why there aren't victims advocates like her there to help people through these kind of situations, and just as a voice of somebody that will vouch for her character. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please.
Hello, my name is Darren Watson. I live over at 6389 South Lotus Way. I just wanted to come up here and just give a little personal insight. I don't live anywhere near where this development's supposed to be going in, but I'm a member of the Government Affairs Committee with the Board of Realtors, and we had the opportunity recently to speak with the mayor of Draper City about some of their rezoning. And what was brought up in that meeting, the sentiment among many of us in there was that right now we need the high-density housing. However, in the near future, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want the larger size lots. We won't have that opportunity coming up in the next 10, 15 years anywhere in the Salt Lake Valley. And so we urge the mayor of Draper to consider looking ahead to the future, although the need now is get as many first-time buyers in and as many people into those high-density housing or even medium density, to reconsider and say, well, look, right now, yes, this is the need, but soon we may actually need to look ahead and say, hey, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to want these half-acre lots, third-acre lots, and just something that we should try and plan a little bit ahead here for our future. I know that's really all I have to say on this. I just wanted to kind of bring that up and make it known to everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please.
My name is Brian Young, and I want to speak for 7B. I'm not a resident of West Jordan City. I'm a resident of Sandy City. I'm here with my family who owns this property. We've owned it for many years, and I was not going to speak. I've since decided I'd like to share a few thoughts. Some of the thoughts is that we have conducted a traffic study that has shown that it'll be minimally impactful on the neighborhoods surrounding this development. The other thing is those that are upset with this development going in that have enjoyed many years of being on a dead-end street, you had to know when you were there that eventually there would be something that would go in there. Now, there's been a lot of talk about high-density homes. I'm not sure if Mayor here is friends with Tom Dolan. Tom Dolan is a neighbor of mine. He's the mayor of Sandy City. You want to talk high-density, come out to where I live, and unfortunately, I live in an area where we live on about quarter-acre lots. And down the road from me, you want to talk high-density, they put in a giant apartment complex. And that's, to me, upsetting, seeing that go in by my house, and that's happening right now. So I understand the frustration when people are talking about high-density homes and having lots of people in there. Our family hears that. We are concerned about children. Obviously, we don't want anybody getting hurt with extra traffic, etc. So, we've taken those things into consideration. There's a lot of talk of these 10,000-acre lots. If you go through the plan and actually look at the lots, there's lots in there that are 12 and 13,000 feet lots in there. So I think that's really quite good. But, I just want to say that we want to work with everybody so that everyone's feeling good about this. The other thing, too, is this isn't in the middle of the mountains. Just to the east of all of this is Bangerter Highway. Another thought that came into my mind is there will be a wall that will be put in. And you're going to have more homes, so those of you that are west of our development will probably enjoy some noise abatement from the highway, because you'll have homes and things and trees that'll grow that'll break up more of that noise versus just an empty field where that noise will carry across. That's something that I would think would be nice if I were living to the west of this development. But appreciate everyone's thoughts and different views. That's what's great about living here in America, is we get to express our thoughts and views, and I appreciate your time and you allowing me to share my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
My name's Brad Beck. I grew up on 8350 South, and I moved to Harriman, lived there for 5 years, hated it. So I came back, bought on 8250 to raise my kids and live that short little farm life for my kids. And I'm fine with half-acre lots. I think the traffic will be greatly reduced that way, but if they go to the bit smaller lots, we're going to have a lot of traffic where our kids and potentially grandkids will be running up and down streets, having fun with all these traffic. I just want to look at keeping half-acre lots. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I will close the citizens' comments portion of the agenda and move to the consent calendar. Councilmember Jacob.
I would like to pull item H for discussion.
Item H. Councilmember McConaughey.
Councilmember Jacob also actually beat me to it, so thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Burton.
I'd like to pull E, please.
E?
Yes.
Items E and H. Motion would be in order. Councilmember Jacob.
Move to approve the remaining items.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Jacob, second by Councilmember McConaughey. Discussion to the motion? Let's vote.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember Rice. Vote passes 6 in favor.
Item 7A, public hearing item, continued from September 21st, 2016. Receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 16-41, amending future land use map for 138.5 acres of property located at 7800 South Highway U-111 from low-density residential, high-density residential, mixed-use, and commercial to low-density residential, medium-density residential, and commercial designation, and rezone 138.5 acres from MU, HFR, LSFR, and SC2 to PC zone. Homes, applicant. David Oka.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. Ray McCandless is here to address the issue, make her a small presentation.
Mayor and members of the council, this property is located on the northwest corner of U-111 and 7800 South. Did you turn that on? Or did you turn one of those on? Turn one of them back. There, that's good. Thank you. This is U-111 and 7800 South right here. The subject property is here. It's just close to the west city boundary. This is an enlarged aerial, just showing the property itself. It's 138 acres in size, and as you can see on the aerial photograph, the southern part of the property has been used as for gravel extraction for some time. And the area that's just on the north side of the property has been used for dry farming for years. The area that's to the north and to the west has also been used for dry farming and is otherwise just raw land, except some buildings that are here on U-111. To the east of U-111 is the Maples development, and then this is the Serengeti Springs apartment complex, which is here, and then the Sycamores development, which is to the south. As you can see on the aerial photograph, 7800 South just extends west from U-111 to New Sycamore Drive, which is this street right here. This is an overlay showing the zoning districts on the property. As you can see, there are 4 zones. We have what we call a traditional zoning district, which is the SC2. We have an MU, which is a mixed use. This is a high-density, multifamily residential zone here, and then a low-density, single-family residential zoning district on the west side of the property. The MU and the HFR and the LSFR zoning districts are what we refer to as the west side planning area zones, which I think were placed on the property sometime in 2004, or in 2006, or just shortly thereafter. These zoning districts are specific to the west side planning area, but some time ago, I think it was with the adoption of Ordinance 13-11, the City Council reduced the size of the west side planning area to just the Highlands development only. It used to apply to most of the area that's west of 5600 West, but now it's just to the Highlands area only. So we have an area that's zoned under the west side planning area zones, but it's not in the west side planning area anymore. So the applicant has asked for what we call planned community zoning district. And this just kind of shows the area that would be affected by that. And this map just shows kind of the overall context of the zoning. The property here is again the Maples. This is all in the planned community zoning district, as is the Serengeti Apartments, and the Sycamores are also in a PC zoning district. So this would basically fill in this corner that's just south of the railroad tracks there. This is a concept plan. The applicant has submitted a very detailed concept plan, as you'll notice in your packets that are about that thick. They've gone to a great deal of effort to justify why the zoning is needed and why the future land use map should be changed to reflect that zoning. Typically, you wouldn't see this level of detail until around the preliminary phase. But a concept plan is required to be submitted as part of the rezoning request. So what we're looking at is 435 dwelling units, 361 of those would be single-family dwellings, which includes 28 garden lots. There will be 74 townhomes. There won't be any apartments. They're all anticipated to be owner-occupied. On here, the lighter the, this right here is your lower density. The area that's in the orange are your townhomes. The ones that are in the brown are the garden homes. And then the area that's in the pink is that commercial corner that's on the corner of U-111 and 78. There's again, as you can see, there's kind of a mix of lot sizes. On the east side, they range in size from about 5,000 to 8,000 square feet. Then the lot sizes that are west of this line right here are basically 10 to 20,000 square feet. So there's quite a variety in the number and the sizes of lots. It gives a good mix. The commercial area has been integrated into the development. There's an open space area here. And then there's also, will be pedestrian connections through to that commercial area. They've also, in terms of the amenities that they're looking at a pool here, a soccer field that's here, and then also they've made provisions or allows for a church site over on the east side of the development. This is just how the concept plan lays in relation to the other developments. This is just a graphic that shows kind of the distribution of the different lot sizes, the number of units per acre, total number of units. Again, we're looking at 361 single-family dwellings. I can go back to these if you want, if you need me to. As far as the future land use map, we've got, this is what it shows now. On the corner, we've got community commercial, and then we've got it surrounded by a mixed-use area, and then high-density residential on that, beyond that, and then low-density residential as you go further to the east. So it was anticipated that there was going to be some high-density residential here in the high-density and mixed-use area on our master plan. And I think, as you can see, there's kind of a progression of density from the intersection from the corner to the north end and to the west. This is what is being proposed. This is, again, is right along a similar dividing line. We're looking at medium density residential here, and then low density residential over on the west side with that commercial area here. So basically, what it does, I made this kind of fancy, but what it does, rather than having the progression from the corner, it really broadens that medium density and makes a larger area that transitions from U111 further to the west. So there's kind of a big connection now between the medium density residential with similar densities, and the same is true with the low density residential as it goes north and south. So we think in a lot of ways that makes a lot of sense to transition it that way. Just in terms of the proposed density, just on the east side, roughly 5 dwelling units per acre. On the east side of that line, 1.9 dwelling units per acre on the west side. As we're going through this, just keep in mind that this is a concept plan, that it'll change, but this is really what they're proposing. And so we're basically, again, just looking at the zoning and whether the land use map should change, but this just gives you a sense for what's on the table here. This looks a little convoluted, but basically, as I showed in the previous slide, it showed 1.9 dwelling units per acre on the west side, and then 5.0 dwelling units on the east side, with an overall density of 3.2 dwelling units per acre. And what that does is it lands it in low density and medium density, as I showed on that previous slide. When it relates to the general plan, it's kind of analogous to what you might find in these districts. So in low density, it'd be the low density single family residential, R112, R114. And then the medium density would be analogous to an R18, 9, and 10. What happens is, because this is a concept plan, it will be coming back to the Planning Commission, and it will be coming back to the City Council as well to finalize or firm up those the allowed densities. So you'll probably be seeing some of this again as it comes back through for your approval. This is just a close-up of the commercial area, just showing the open space connections, the pedestrian connections. This is just a slope map. As you'll notice, there are a couple of places that are on the slope map that are over 30%. I think those areas are kind of shown in red here and here. But those have been integrated into the open space. And this is a slide that just shows the open space distribution in the area. This is the Sycamores, the part just north of the Sycamores. This is what's proposed on the property, and these will be future open space areas as they develop. Again, just taking everything else away and just showing the parks and open spaces. It does meet the 15% as it's proposed open space requirement for the planned community zoning district. This is just showing the trail connections. A lot of these are on actually on sidewalks, but there are some connections here through to the parks and then linkages to the sidewalk. An overall view of just the trails plan, the church site. And as you'll notice, there's a lot of phases in this development. There's 16. It'll end up with the commercial development here. We did, in the staff report, just indicate that this will be the area that will be developed last in this, within this development. And the reason is because there has to be off-site water provided to that property at some point in the future. I think everything below 5,200 is serviceable at this time, but there will need to be an additional tank or other means of water supply to that part of that area that's labeled as 15. The applicants are aware of that. There won't be any development that will be allowed until those utility infrastructure is completed. This is just a diagram showing the phasing plan on it. One of the concerns that was raised at the Planning Commission meeting was just to make sure that cars will not, in the smaller lots, will not overhang the sidewalk. They've shown here a typical lot layout of 25 feet here, which will provide adequate parking for visitors. And just to give you a sense for what kind of homes, we think they're upscale housing. I'm going to just run through these very quickly. They are included in your packets. Some examples of the townhome product. That's it. Be happy to answer any questions.
Question for council. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. And thanks for the presentation. Excellent job as always, sir. Question is, how binding is a concept plan when we rezone to a PC? I know one has to be submitted with a PC zone. How binding is that?
Yeah, there's nothing. There is no formal rule or process or anything that would bind that concept plan to that rezoning. Where that comes into play is when they come back in for a preliminary plan. That you'll review that against that concept plan that was submitted initially, and so you'll be able to approve or deny that preliminary plan based on what was submitted at the concept level. You'll be able to make a decision as to whether or not that's any changes that are made with that would be acceptable.
Okay, thank you. And same question. If we can go back to the phasing map that was shown.
It'll take a while.
I didn't realize how far back that was. Sorry. It seemed like it was just moments ago. What happens, now I've seen developments begin and not end because of recessions or financial problems from developers and things like this. There's a famous one in Orem on State Street. I don't know if you've seen it. It looks like a great big, I don't know, it looks like the Tower of Terror from Disneyland, if you ask me. Because it's half done, and it has been for like 15 years. So what happens if we build in, phase 1 and 2 have the high density, of course. 1, 2, 3 starts to get into the medium density, or 1 and 2 are the townhomes, right, for the most part. What happens if we get that far into it and nothing else happens? Is there anything binding on the parties to push anything through?
As far as timing, no, not really. But there is typically a development agreement that's entered into. Again, it's just kind of time and marketing because the plans will get approved, and sometimes that's just the case. The market just won't support it just won't support the new development until that turns around. So sometimes it's just a waiting game.
why that concerns me on this, and I'll just put this out here for everybody, is the amenities are not in phase 1 or 2 or even really 3. I mean, 3 has open space, but it's on a hillside. The initial buyers here in phase 1 and 2 aren't going to have a park or a pool or a playground or anything else until phase 3, 4, and 5 are built. We've seen developments adjacent to this where that park just kind of never goes in. And developer walks away from the project, washes his hands, says, sorry, you're on your own. We've seen that over and over and over again. I would really like to see this phasing plan updated, and I guess we can do that in the preliminary stage down the road, to include maybe the park that's in phase 5, put into phase 2, because they're right next to each other. Something along those lines. Just to ensure that some of the amenities do get built and don't get dropped at the end of the project saying, sorry, we're out of money, you don't get your park.
No, that's certainly something that can be done and looked at, absolutely.
Yeah, appreciate that, thanks.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. The 99 lots, so 20% of the lots that are 5,000 to 6,000 square feet caught my attention, but I'll save comments on that until after it comes back to us for discussion. The one I really want to get clarification on right now is, what are these 28 garden lots that average 4,500 square feet? In the display that was or in the presentation it showed what a lot would look like for a 5,300 square foot lot. So and that looked tight, especially the vehicles. So I'm kind of concerned about how these garden lots come into play and where they're at.
Okay. They're located here. Let me push the button here. In the kind of the dark brown areas. So there's some here, there's some here, here, and here. These right here will be alley loaded, so your garages will be behind the units. But they are smaller lots, but they are similar to what's across the street in the Maples development. In fact, those lots are actually smaller with, I think they're roughly 3,500 square feet, if I'm not mistaken.
And do we have an estimated price point, what they're shooting for those?
I don't know that. You're welcome to ask the applicant.
Okay. Thank you.
I just have a couple questions. We really shouldn't be looking at a concept plan to make a decision on zoning change to a PC zone. Is that accurate? Because that doesn't mean anything. It still has to come back with a preliminary site plan to get approved. Is that accurate?
You look at it, but you'll look at it in a lot of detail when it comes back.
Okay, and once this 138.5 acres is zone PC with the density that's attributed to it, it stays at PC whether the developer that is currently developing or somebody comes later, it remains in that designation, right?
Correct.
With the same densities.
Right. Because the densities are established in that preliminary site plan review and development plan review, which will be coming back to you.
Scott has.
Just to kind of, we should have a flow chart with this process, right? The concept plan, as we've talked about, is not binding. It does set expectation, though. The code does read that if the city council does not approve a preliminary development plan, which locks in the density, which that's step 2 of the process, this is step 1, then the property will revert back to the zoning it is today. So if the council decides, after you get all the detail down the road, that you're not comfortable with the certain level of amenities or whatever, the property will revert back to the original zone as it sits today.
But correct me if I'm wrong. If it is approved as a PC zone and it's started, the development plan is approved as a PC zone, it stays PC zone no matter who buys it in the future. Is that accurate?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll now open the public hearing for item 7A. If you're here to speak on this item, now would be your opportunity. please.
Alexandra Ephraimov, 3735 Judd Circle. I have always been, or have been, an advocate of low density. So I'm really not sure. I'm not that astute about everything here, so it's a little bit above me. But it sounds like it's a plus in my mind. From what we're eliminating here is high density residential down to medium. So that would be, if I'm listening right, that would be a plus. It would be lower. I mean, it has dropped down a degree from, towards low density, and also the mixed use. I have no idea what the mixed use. So what we're doing is we're eliminating really just the high density residential to medium density, and we're eliminating mixed use. But I'm 1,000,000% for keeping, I'd like to see the whole thing be low density residential. But anyway, I'm just one person, but that's my viewpoint. Anyway, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Anyone else during this public hearing?
My name is Mike Kelly. I'm the land planner on this project, working for Holmes Homes. I think the one question that maybe we could address that came up is price ranges for these homes. The townhomes and the garden lots that we're proposing in our development would be priced from $210,000 to about $250,000. That's probably the lowest price point that we would have in our project. Those lots that are 5,000 to 8,000 square foot in the range of $300,000 to $350,000. 8,000 to 10,000 square foot lots would go for about $350,000 to $400,000. And 10,000 plus square foot lots, $375,000 plus. And then we'll offer custom homes on our larger lots that would be probably in the range of 500 plus. Does that help? We intend to build some quality homes. The product that you see is some of our current product that we are building and having success with. Every year, or at least every 2 years, we introduce new product lines, and we'll present some of those for your consideration as new phases come along, and we may have some changes in those, and there are always upgrades in what we're doing because the market expects that, and we're competing with others to build some quality product. Other questions for us? Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing for item 7A and return to the council for discussion and or a motion. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. Once in a while I attend the planning and zoning meetings. There's one that I went to, Homes where they're presenting this at planning and zoning, and I was impressed on how the meeting went. When they got up there, they had a list of things. This was their second meeting with them, and they just went down the list because the first meeting, the planning and zoning gave them a list of things they wanted to have done. They went through that list one by one and said, we did this, we did this, we did this, to show that they were really trying to follow exactly what we were asking here in West Jordan. And then when they came out with this, and they had their list, their completed things, I was impressed to see the builder was taking those steps. Instead of going and saying, asking us to change everything to meet their needs, they changed theirs, their plan to meet what the needs are, and the plans of West Jordan. So I want to compliment Homes on following the city plan and putting forth the efforts to do this. So thank you.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple thoughts. First of all, I think the PC zoning in general for this development is appropriate. It allows for a little bit more flexibility, plus it allows for more feedback from city, from staff, from the council to make sure that we get the product that we're looking for that's in the best interest of the city. That said, this kind of concept plan has me a little bit nervous. I kind of insinuated that with when I pointed out that 99 lots are set to be 5,000 to 6,000 square foot. So that's roughly, what, 20% of the units out here. And then even smaller than that, we have those garden lots. And I've seen that done well before in other markets. But all of the markets where I've seen that do well, and when I say well, meaning a product that looks good after 10, 15 years, they've all been much higher price point. I've mentioned before in strategic planning that when I was in Texas, I saw homes that were roughly 3,500 square foot homes on 4,500 square foot lots that were in the $400,000 price range, and that was a good, stable community, and it was a great asset to the community. We've seen places closer to home where we have similar sized lots, and it is a dramatic contrast to what I saw elsewhere. So I have a lot of concern with those very, very small sized lots. The other thing that jumped out to me is the commercial zone, the SE2 that's on the corner, is being proposed to be dropped from 13 acres down to about 10 acres. It's a 3.3 acre lots, so a full 25% of the commercial area would be done away with, and this is right at a prime intersection. I know that for quite some time we've heard, well, at least in my near 5 years on the council, I've heard from folks who live out in this area with concerns about the lack of availability of services in commercial locations. I really don't like zoning that down. So I think where I'm at right now, I like the idea of going with a PC zone. I'm having severe reservations with this preliminary concept plan that's been presented. I would not want to change this to PC and then wait for another plan to come back later and have all the back and forth and concern. I would rather do them both at one time. See a concept plan that we like, we're ready to approve, and then approve that plan at the same time the zoning is changed to PC. As Mary brought up the idea that if we were to change this to PC, then if it were to change hands, it could be problematic and there could be things that are lost in communication. So I'd rather just do it all in one fell swoop, and I don't think we're quite there yet. So, thank you.
Thanks. I think, from my perspective, this is one instance where the zoning is actually better than what currently exists, and we don't get that very often. So for that reason, and moving to the PC zone where the city council has the final say on what is actually finally approved in the plan, I'm willing to support this at this point. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Question for staff, Scott or Ray, either one. The question is there a proportion set out? I don't think there is, but correct me if I'm wrong. A proportion set out for a planned community zone as opposed to a PUD, or a PRD, excuse me, a planned residential development, where there has to be a certain amount of commercial to qualify it as a PC zone. Because I know with PC the intention is mixed use overall.
There's not a ratio or a required amount. It's negotiated.
Okay. But the intent is correct. If I'm not mistaken, the intent is to provide a planned community where you have a mixture of uses.
That's correct.
Okay. I just don't know if this quite gets there. I would be much more comfortable zoning this as a PRD, leaving the corner parcel out of it. Just because I don't think there's enough commercial there to qualify it as a PC zone. Now, that may be splitting hairs, and I've talked about that before. I don't have many to split. But leaving such as it is, I don't know that a PC zone is quite the right one just because of the lack of commercial. It's a very small commercial spot there. From the looks of it, it's not big enough for a grocery store. Let alone anything else. So, thanks.
Councilmember Burton.
I'll make a motion. So based on the information and findings set forth in this staff report, upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move the City Council approve ordinance number 16-41, amending the future land use map from low-density residential, high-density residential, mixed use, and commercial to a low-density residential, medium-density residential, commercial designation, and rezone 138.5 acres from mixed use, high-density multifamily residential, low-density single-family residential, and SC2 community shopping center to a PC planned community zoning district on a property generally located on the northeast corner of 7800 South and U111. And I want to add that we would encourage the commercial zone, the developer to come back with a commercial zone increased by 10%.
I'll second that motion for discussion. So we have a motion by Councilmember Burton and a second by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. First thought is I would suggest the motion be amended to exclude the encouragement to increase by 10% because it's been reduced by 25 to add. It's been dropped by 3 acres. If you increase it by 10%, that's only adding one back in. So I would suggest that should be left out of the motion. Number 2, I will be supporting the change to PC because I do like that we're seeing 50 acres of what would otherwise be high-density residential converted to medium-density residential. So that part I would support, but I would hope the original motion would be changed to exclude that admonition because I think we can do better than 11 acres commercial. Thank you.
Councilmember Burton.
Okay, I will take my last sentence off my motion.
And I'll second that for discussion. So we still have the adjusted motion for discussion. Let's vote.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember Jacob?
No.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Vote passes 5-1 in favor.
Public hearing item 7B, receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 16-42 regarding a rezone of 1.74 acres located at 8415 South Susan Way and 8157 South Maple Leaf Way from RR1C, rural residential 1 acre lots, and 21.04 acres from RR5E, rural residential half acre lots, to R110E, single family residential 10,000 square foot lots minimum. Jordan Meadows, LLC. Before we go on this, we had quite a lengthy discussion from many members of the public on this item. Those discussion items are duly noted for this particular item on the agenda, so you won't have to come back up and restate. Everyone understands where you stand on those issues. So as we start this discussion, just wanted to make that clear. David Oka?
Yes, Scott Langford will address the council on this issue.
Mayor, members of the council, as you indicated, Mayor, we've already heard a lot about this particular item. I'll be brief in my comments. The general plan currently designates most of this property as medium-density residential, which does support the density of 10,000 square foot lots for the majority of this proposal. As you've probably noted in your packet, this went to the Planning Commission on July 5th. And you'll also notice that you've received a negative recommendation from our Planning Commission. And after hearing a lot of the comments, similar to what you heard tonight, the Planning Commission felt that there was some incompatible land uses going on here. And as I went back and read the minutes and reflected on that particular meeting, it seemed like that sentiment was essentially due to traffic impact. And so we've worked with the applicant, and they provided a traffic impact study, which is attached to your staff report, that talks about the potential impact development on this property would have on the surrounding neighboring subdivisions. Now, I think it's important to note that we have a number of rural residential subdivisions throughout the city, mostly on the east side, and for I think the large majority of those developments, there's a lot of interplay between rural residential and 10,000 square foot lots. I don't have a map to show you, but there's many instances in the city where they do play well, and there is an appropriate transition. So land use, in my professional opinion, is not a huge issue. We've dealt with that many times. Traffic, on the other hand, of course, there will be an impact. That's very clear. To explain why the staff was recommending approval of this particular rezone, we looked at the city ordinances. We can't play favorites. We have to apply the code equally and uniformly amongst all the properties in the city. And you can see that this is the concept subdivision. Now, obviously, we're not talking about the details of the subdivision tonight, but as we work backwards from the council's actions tonight, possibly rezoning it, it will have an impact on the design. So you can see how this interplays with the surrounding neighborhoods. Now, you can see that on the north end, you have two stub streets, which this proposed development will connect into. Unfortunately, due to interconnectivity with the previous subdivision, everything funnels through one spot up here on the north. Likewise, you have another connection down to the south, and so getting into this area has been challenging for a long time. And as we looked at the concept subdivision, we had to apply current city code. Now, this is out of our subdivision ordinance. It talks about the requirements due to street interconnectivity. It says streets in new subdivisions shall connect to existing stub streets from adjacent subdivisions. Okay, and we took that code requirement from our subdivision ordinance, and we gave direction to the applicant. Part B of that same section talks about the need for multiple access points. And with any new development, you're going to have traffic impact. And the reason why the code is written the way it is we try to diffuse that impact to as much area as possible. And so, again, we applied city code, and we gave direction to the applicant to provide or to connect in with existing stub streets, which include this area here to the west. And so if you remove the stub out to the west, you're going to naturally impact the neighbors to the north and the south in a greater capacity. Service times from emergency vehicles will, that time will increase. And so based on current code, we made the motion, or that we recommended the motion to approve the rezoning as presented in your packet. So hopefully that kind of explains how we got to our staff recommendation. and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Two quick questions for you, Scott. Does the applicant, and you, I'm sure you know this, own the parcel to the west of the canal as well as the large parcel? So
They do.
This is one
They
owner?
do own it, yeah.
Okay. Second question, would 3 points of access, in other words, the 2 to the north and the 1 to the south, be sufficient for this if there was not the third access out, or the fourth access out to the west on the southwest corner there?
It would be. As far as utility connections go, there may be some easements that need to be procured. I wasn't able to chat with our engineering staff today. They were out at conference, but there should be utility connections stubbed out here to the south and to the north. Even though emergency vehicle service times would increase, my understanding with talking with the fire department this morning is that it still would be able to meet our level of service.
All right, thanks.
Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. First question, you know, we just resident brought it up, is the canal. What would be the, because I'm looking at the map and there's a canal that runs right through this, between these properties, north and south, am I right?
Correct, yes.
Is there a plan for that?
Well, if you look on our Trails Master Plan, there is a long-term vision to convert many of our canals to future trails. There's a lot of hurdles that need to be overcome in order to do that. That's just the long-term vision, but there's no plans that are imminent at this point for improving that.
And then question number 2. So rural density means a half-acre lot or full-acre lot? Are we, as it is currently?
So currently it's rural residential 0.5, so half acre. The subdivision to the west right here is rural residential 1 acre minimum lot size.
So if we stayed, if the owner of the property stayed with that zoning, how many lots would that create in that area? Can you project that, or?
It would be, that's something that I'm not comfortable just going and doing that on the fly with the roads laid out. That could, when you go from 10,000 square foot lots or 1/4 acre up to half acre, the depth of it changes, and so the street layout would have to shift, and that would affect the number of units you could possibly get in there.
Thanks, Scott. Oh, excuse me, Councilmember Burton.
Can you tell me how long that current zoning has been in place?
I wasn't the one that wrote this report. I didn't do the full background history on it. It's been that way for quite some time, though. And the general plan designation for medium density residential has been there at least since I started working for the city, which is 2005. So it's been that way for quite some time.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. We'll now open the public hearing for item 7B. And anyone wishing that has not spoken on this item, please come forward.
My name is Vicki Ashby. I was supposed to speak earlier on the, if you need my address, it's 3853 West, 8350 South. You are going to hear a lot of things from 8350 or 8250. We're not saying that we are against building the homes there. There's no way that we are against building the homes there. The only thing that we're worried about is the traffic flow. I have 2 kids that walk to and from the bus stop. I stress every day that they're not going to make it home because of some erratic driver off 40th West or even 8350 that's going to hit them. I mean, I shouldn't have to live with that worry. At 8350, we have people that think it's the Autobahn, putting those humps over there is not going to help anything. It's going to make things worse, especially for us who have horse trailers. Like they said earlier, it's going to make everything stressful, even for the animals. You know, how are you going to guarantee everybody's safety? And then what about our water rights? Does that mean if they put in their lots the way they want it to, does that mean Huntington Estates goes over to the city? I mean, nobody's given us anything at that, because we have rights through the Huntington City or Huntington Estates where we get our water through the canal. You know, nobody has ever, you know, said anything about that. You know, and then about the schools. I have a niece that I cannot get into kindergarten at Columbia because there are 30 students for 3 classrooms of kindergarten. To me, that's way overcrowding. Why do I have to fight to get my child or my niece into a school that is in my district area that somebody else can just waltz right in and she has to be put on a waiting list? You know, if you're going to put more houses there, think of more schools, more ways to educate these kids, because the schools that we have now is not going to make it. Again, and then to take her to school, I have to go 15 miles out of my way to drive her to another elementary school. You know, how is that fair for me to take her to somewhere where she's supposed to go? And then you guys sit there and say about 40th West. The crowding at the soccer fields is enormous. So you got coming down north to south, those on 7800 South and 40th West, you have those soccer fields where people park on the streets all the time. Going down, it's going to make traffic even worse, trying to get people out of 8350 onto those streets. Has anybody, I know you guys sit there and say you do a traffic study, but it doesn't make any sense to us how this is all going to work. And nobody's explained it to us the way, you know, that we can understand. You know, if somebody can actually give you some answers, I would appreciate it.
Thank you. Sir?
Gary Peterson at 3691 West, 8140 South. So I back right up to the property. We know that it's going to be developed at some point in time. Very concerned even now about the traffic. And I've tried to study this traffic study that they did, but it's a little bit confusing to me. All I know is that right now we've got a lot of traffic going in and out of there. I suspect that the bulk of it, or a great deal of the traffic, will go to the north, which again goes through that one pivot point. But the biggest issue I have, I guess in a lot of ways, is 40th South right now, or 40th West right now, is just an absolute zoo. And I don't see anything in here when they did the traffic study that took any consideration into all of the summer and into the fall and into the spring, the traffic for the soccer fields, because it encroaches way into our neighborhoods, not in mine, but in many of the others. So it's just an absolute zoo trying to get in and out of there. And then I noticed in here that it was saying somebody thought they ought to look at some crosswalks or something so they get back and forth to the soccer field. And that's just going to make it even worse. Maybe it's possible to put the parking on the west side of the soccer field, or take some of the soccer field out and put parking there. But my concern is we've got, on Maple Leaf Way, we have 4 handicapped children in that area, and hence we've gone through and put in the humps, the speed bumps, to try to slow the things down. So I just think that the amount of traffic with 80 homes as compared with maybe 40, if they were half acre, might reduce some of it. Anyway, it's my feelings.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, members of staff, Appreciate the opportunity to address you. I'm kind of stuck in the middle of all this. I live in the subdivision between Huntington Estates and the one where the two roads that are going to be coming in and out of. For years, I have been involved with Huntington Estates individuals and their desire to maintain a rural residential lifestyle. At one point, there was a time when the city put up for an election to try and put in a secondary water system that would have robbed them of their water rights, and that was defeated, thankfully, in a vote, and I was glad to see that happen. I know that there are water rights that go with this other land, that if it had remained if it remains as a rural residential half-acre lots, there's still water rights that are assigned with that. But if you rezone it to where it becomes a subdivision, then the city gets those water rights, and those water rights are no longer with the individuals. And there would be no secondary water being provided, as I understand, based on what's being put there. One of the major concerns that my neighbors have, again, has to do with curb and gutter, especially in the rural residential area, having speed bumps and things that would cause problems with them hauling their animals around. It is a rural residential area. It has been a rural residential area since I moved here 32 years ago, and long before then. These are people who have lived there, originally even had an equestrian path that, due to litigation and other things, that the people just decided to go ahead and fence off, and now they don't have the equestrian ring on it anymore. But the problem that is that it still is a rural residential area. And as one who lives right off of 40th West, and who has to put up with all the soccer room traffic, and has complained about the parking, because on Elwood Way, our road becomes a parking lot, and when we get up there, people ignore the parking, no parking on the east side, and you can't see what's coming. This will just add to the problem. Now, I would ask that, and the other aspect of it is, I live on 1/3 of an acre. All of my subdivision is 1/3 of an acre. Most of the people to the north is 1/3 of an acre. The people south of us is 1 acre. Then we have the trailer court. To me, it still makes more sense that these would be rural residential half-acre lots to be in harmony with those people who are there, and that the other people could have their animals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I just need to state that we own water shares on our property. We have water shares for that land.
Thank you. Please.
Alexandra Ephraimo, 3735 Judd Circle. This is really a very delicate situation, I feel. Again, I'm for low density, and 40th West is only 1 lane north and 1 lane south, if I remember correctly, or if I've been there. How in the world are you going to accommodate if you go to the 10,000 square feet? I'm frightened. I like you say, I don't know how long the Mascherino family has lived on this particular thing, and I'm sorry about the death of the father, but I would like to talk to that father before he passed away, because I don't, if you're living on open land, basically open land, 21, almost 24 acres, I don't think that he would have gone ahead and said, yes, he wants 10,000 square feet. I don't know, I didn't know the man. I can't talk to him now because he's gone. But the thing is, for 37 years, you're going to be living on open space. And now all of a sudden, because I'm sure the family is a beautiful family, but you know, I'm sorry, folks, it's money. It is M-O-N-E-Y. And the people that have moved around there for 30 years, just like Mr. Kilpack said, I mean, and all the road, I'm really, really concerned about the safety. I'm concerned about the children walking on just the one lane north, one lane south. The schools, we're still trying to figure out the school situation. And I'm sorry, I'm against, I think we need more study on this, but I'm really against going ahead and the 10,000 square foot, because I just do not think that Mr. Mescherino, or however you pronounce the last name, would have consented to it. But that's just my idea. I mean, if you're living on open space for 35 years, all of a sudden you're going to be compounded by homes and traffic and frightening things. So I would urge the council to really, really consider and vote against this rezone. Thank you.
Thank you. Please. This gentleman first, and you.
My name is Curtis Ball. I'm with Stantec Consulting as a representative of the owners. I'd like to just reiterate, it's been stated before, but our efforts to rezone this property are in conformance with the master plan as a medium density development. In fact, the 10,000 square foot lots are the least dense zone in that medium density designation, and our lots are averaging 11,000 square feet per acre. So it almost meets the density of low density designation zones. There's been quite a bit said about high density, so I just wanted to make sure that it was, I know it's clear in your minds. I just wanted to bring that up for the people here, that this is not high density, this is medium density, almost low density. There's an existing canal that will be maintained. It has its own dedicated right-of-way and provides a natural buffer between the 1 acre subdivision to the west and this new subdivision. We have 10,000 square foot lots to the north of us, 8,000 square foot lots to the south. We feel like we're conforming well with the existing subdivisions around us, taking that buffer into consideration. We listened to the people who presented their views to the Planning Commission. They were concerned about traffic, so we had a traffic study done. The owners have had a traffic study done. They found minimal impact to the surrounding intersections as far as level of service, and suggested that no mitigation be recommended for that. There are also some positive impacts to this development that I would like to just bring up briefly. It does improve the connectivity with the surrounding neighborhoods, and it improves the emergency access to the surrounding neighborhoods. There will be improved fire flows by looping the water system through this subdivision. And we're continuing the sound wall that it currently ends at the south end, and at the north end we will be continuing it through this subdivision, providing a buffer from Bangerter Highway for the people to the west. Just like to also thank the city staff, who has been very supportive and helpful in this process. And if you have any questions, I'd like to be able to answer them on behalf of the owners.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sure.
So again, I'm Scott Lamson, 8350, 3954. Has anybody I was curious if anybody, what is the current code? Does anybody know on the streets how big they are, what they require? If you do what you want to do, is the current codes going to match the subdivision that we live in now? How's that going to work? Is there a width? I'm sure every street needs to be so wide, the sidewalk needs to be so big.
I don't believe I'm not officially answering this, but I don't believe the subdivision streets meet the existing code, anywhere close. And
so our subdivision would not meet the current code. Is that true?
Opinion.
May I ask that question too? Was it you? Okay. All right. Just curious how that would work. Thank you.
Thanks. I will close the public hearing of item 7B.
Oh, there's a lot more.
Please.
I apologize for prolonging this a little bit. My name is Jeremy Searle. I'm with Hales Engineering. We did the traffic impact study. Hearing the comments tonight, I figure I'm the most popular guy in the room tonight. I just wanted to mention a couple things, and then if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those as well. As I mentioned, we did do the traffic impact study. We went out and collected counts at the intersections near the proposed development. We looked at the two busiest peak hours, the AM and the PM peak hours there. The project itself is projected to generate approximately 68 trips, vehicle trips during the morning peak hour, and 88 peak hour trips during the evening peak hour. With the different connections through the neighborhood, you're averaging around 30 trips per connection or each road there, which comes out to about a vehicle every other minute during the busiest hour. So yes, there will be additional traffic on these roads. The impact is not significant through here. We did analyze the existing conditions without the project, and again with the project, the levels of service are very similar, and we did not recommend any traffic mitigation measures for that. We do agree with city staff on their recommendation to provide connectivity through the sub-roads. As was mentioned, it disperses the traffic, it provides emergency vehicle access, and connects the neighborhoods. There's also been some questions or concerns regarding pedestrians and safe routes to school. We did look at that and included in our traffic study a safe routes to school map. And along with that, we did recommend a couple locations that the city study for crosswalks. And they've been very good. They've been very quick to look at those. And in fact, I was sent over a plan just last week, I believe, for a new crosswalk at Starlight and Old Bingham Highway with the rectangular rapid flashing beacons there. The map that we provided shows that students going up to Columbia Elementary would go up through the neighborhood. They would be on 78th for a short time and then come back down through the neighborhood and cross over the pedestrian bridge over to the school. And then for Terra Linda Elementary and the middle school, they would go to the south along Old Bingham Highway and then back up Old Bingham Highway towards those schools. So that's just a quick rundown of the safe routes to school analysis that we looked at. If there are any other questions regarding traffic, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't intend to say anything here tonight, and I think most everything's been said, both sides. My name's Dave Burge. I live in Maple Leaf Way, 3944. Lived there for 23 years. So we were the very first subdivision off of 40th West in that area. From that time, there was hardly any traffic to today, When we had the survey done to put the speed bumps in, when that happened, there were over 850 to 1,200 cars per day passing down Maple Leaf Way. Now, if you add this in, that's going to increase a lot more, because if you look at the map there, everybody talks about the 2 exits on the north side. Well, what you don't see is those 2 exits actually neck down to where that little arrow is over a canal. That's the only way right now to access that subdivision. If some emergency happened, all the people in Pheasant Run would be stuck there. Well, with what you're proposing there, if not, if all those exits aren't put in, even if they are, the bulk of that traffic's still going to go down Maple Leaf Way. When the soccer fields are in, you cannot get in and out of my driveway. People park in front of it. It's constantly there. One thing that we ought to propose in the future, and I know not today, but look at maybe taking out some of the soccer fields in the middle of the park and putting parking in there. I notice Councilman Hagee, you smile at that every time someone suggests that. Several years ago, I was on a committee to study the feasibility of the soccer fields. At that time, about 4 to 5 years ago, the soccer fields were costing the city $650,000 a year, and they were netting less than $400 on revenues coming in. So it's something that needs to be looked at. But I can just tell you right now, if we don't address the things, the school thing's a big thing. Originally, they should have bought out some of those houses in Pheasant Run on the corner and taken some of that traffic through the subdivision on the north end. That would add one other exit into that area, and you'd only have to lose probably 2 houses. So thank you for your time. I know you'll do what's right, and thanks for the opportunity to address all of you.
Thank you. Please.
Sorry, John Brand again, 3893 West, 8350 South. I'd like to address a couple of points made by the developers that I don't know where they got their math, but I understand that there's going to be about 80 homes in that area. And so if there's 80 homes there and people are working to pay for them, there's got to be 80 people leaving in the morning and 80 leaving in the evening, going to the store, going to soccer practice, baseball practice, dance practice, all the school events. So I don't really agree with the math. My math doesn't work that way. Also, one of the other fellows from Sandy said that everyone should know that there would be access to that property at some point. And again, I've been there for 40 years, and there was never any expectation that anyone would build a bridge or a road over that significant irrigation canal and bring traffic through our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I will now close public hearing item 7B and turn to the council for discussion and one motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple items. First of all, this one's more of a question probably for staff. I want to understand the necessity for the connection to Susan Way. We've got the connection up north, and then we've got the proposed connection or the connection to Meadowlark. Why this additional piece?
Sure. It's kind of covered up by the arrow there, but there is a stub street here, and as I indicated previously, the developer of this main property does own this triangle as well, and so that, per these code requirements here in the subdivision ordinance, and again to do best practices for traffic dispersion. We indicated to the applicant that they needed to put that stub in, or to connect in with that stub, sorry.
Councilmember, I have additional information regarding to your question.
Yes, please.
With regards to the utilities in that area, there's water main stubs at each of those 4 stub streets, including the one at the end of Susan Way. So the water mains are coming from all 4 directions on those. The sewer main for Huntington Estates and for the mobile home park just to the south all actually collect at that arrow where the street bends. And then there's a sewer main that crosses under the canal draining Huntington Estates and the mobile home park under the canal at that exact place where that road or bridge is proposed. It then continues further to the east where that other arrow is, where it combines with sewer from the south side, and then hits the Bangerter Highway and crosses underneath Bangerter Highway. So there's a major sewer line right precisely where that road is located. Any other attempts to use that land would require a 20-foot public utility easement and would generally render the property not usable.
That makes a whole lot more sense. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Going back to my comments then, if that's required, then I have a real hard time supporting the idea that this conforms with the general plan, because I don't see the connection or a buffering between the R110 and the rural residential that's already out there. The canal does act as somewhat of a buffer, but as soon as it's connected through Susan Way, it becomes the same neighborhood, and those land uses don't seem compatible to me. I could probably support something closer to R114, which would be closer to third and acre lots, although I'd prefer to see it remain rural residential because that's fully compatible with what's on the west side. But the R114 would still be kind of a mix between the rural residential on the south and what we have to the north. So I'm not sure I support what's been proposed. The other side comment I'd throw out, we heard a couple times tonight from Mr. Lamson earlier talking about folks on a 10,000 square foot property not caring to be next to farm animals and concerns about being woken up by donkeys and that. I live on a 10,000 square foot lot, and I actually do kind of enjoy it. We have goats right near us, although I wasn't fond of being woken up by a skunk at about 3 a.m. a couple mornings ago. But I very much do appreciate the proximity to livestock, and I'm sure that neighbors that come in will be understanding of what they're coming in next to. But I just wanted to clarify that. But at this point, I'm not supportive of the R110 designation. Thank you.
Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Mayor. I have one more question, maybe of staff or the owner. So the canal and the property that we're proposing rezoning, does it have water rights from this canal? And I'm not a water expert, but it does.
So, it does, yes.
Okay, and then just one comment, because I've lived here a long time too, and I can remember before Bangerter Highway was there. Probably the mayor can too. This is a really odd piece of property. However, I always try to put myself in the place of the people that live here already too. Now we have, a family that wants to sell the property, but we have longtime residents, that had a vision of this being rural. And I'm looking at Google, the camera up above, and all you folks use your property for rural, and you see livestock, actually, things like that. You don't see that from what I see on my computer. So I would be opposed to rezoning this. I would recommend we keep it the same. I think the argument of traffic, emergency vehicles getting to this property hasn't been addressed properly from my perspective. But anyway, that would be my comments, that let's keep it the same. Thanks, Mayor.
Councilmember Rice.
Thank you, Mayor. A gentleman hit it right on the head for me during the citizens' comments, and I'm sorry I don't remember your name. He was saying that in the future, a lot of these people who are living on the smaller lots are going to want to move to larger lots. I am in that category right now. So I'm on a 10,000 square foot lot, and I personally would love to be on an R1.5E. So, and I know a lot of my neighbors are feeling the same way. So that time is now. I personally will be opposed to the motion because I like preserving the rural residential lifestyle in West Jordan. So that's where I stand.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. An R110 on this property is 100% compatible with what's north, and 100% compatible to what's south. And I think it's 100% compatible to what's to the east, but probably less than that to the property to the west. And unfortunately, we don't have majority rules when it comes to, well, 3 out of 4 ain't bad. You bat in 750, get to the World Series. It's that time of year. Yeah, so there are a couple things here that cause me a little consternation. One is that if it wasn't stubbing into the R1, the RR1 neighborhood, it would seem to be more compatible because it doesn't have as much of an impact there as it does to the north and south, and to the north and south I think it's compatible. This whole area, to me, if you back up one map to the bigger overhead map, this whole area is developed poorly. I mean, that mobile home park, what's that doing next to RR1s? You know, I mean, now this is before my time and before most of our times, and probably not before Clive Kilback's time. He's been here a long time. Love you, Clive. But this whole area just doesn't make any sense the way that this was developed, with residential all around, smaller lots surrounding bigger lots, surrounding mobile homes, with industrial across the street, and then none of this makes any sense. So plugging in one more piece that only sort of makes sense, I don't think works for me. Now, this doesn't obviously impact the property owner's right to develop the property. They absolutely have the right to develop their property with the existing code the way it is, even if we say no to this reason. Half-acre lots, I mean, it would only cut the traffic down by, I would say, about a third, but I'm not a traffic engineer. But having seen this kind of thing a few times, yeah, I don't see it fitting in a patchwork quilt of a neighborhood. Thanks.
Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm familiar with this piece of property. I've been down that horseshoe a few times over the years. And I went there again today just to see if it's how my memory was, and it was. It's still the same way. You've got the street with no curb, no gutter, no sidewalks. And I know some of the people live in there who prefer it that way, who don't want to have it upgraded to have curb and gutter and sidewalks. And I agree. I think that connection in there would take some of that away. I would be in favor of keeping the zoning as it is on this piece of property as well.
Is that a motion? Motion to deny.
Sure. I move that we deny the zone change for
1654.
Ordinance 16-42.
Thank you.
Sorry. 32.
On 16-42.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Burton and a second by Councilmember Hagan. Discussion to the motion. That's all.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacob?
Aye.
Mayor Rawl?
Yes.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may just make a quick comment?
Please.
A couple of times people have commented about the soccer fields, and someone noted that there were some facial gestures on the stand. Just so the audience is aware, just prior to this meeting, we were actually downstairs in the community room discussing plans for a new public works building that will be sitting immediately to the north of where our current public work building is, and will chew up some of the space allotted for the soccer fields right now. So I just wanted to make you aware of that's why you probably saw some of those expressions on our faces. That's all. Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor?
Yes.
Move for a 5-minute recess.
A motion by Councilmember Jacob and 2 seconds. Councilmember Burton will second. Discussion to the motion? Yes, 5 minutes only. We got a long night. Let's vote.
Okay.
Can we do all in favor?
You can if you want. Do you want a roll call?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned for 5 minutes only.
Brian. The trail.
Have you written, waiting for some feedback?
Well, in the light of I drove by some people.
It's starting to clean up down there. It's starting to do
Well, I need to read it. I mean, I haven't met.
I'll pass it on to Sarah.
Will you?
Yes. Thank you.
Do you really? Oh, you know why I decided to do it? So, you know, I'm 60 and my wife is okay. And I gotta go and, man, I start what's going. I'm not as brave as I thought. So when you're 61 and you don't have to leave, my brother's crazy. This is hard. I haven't. You're getting, you're becoming a seasoned person. You may. I remember the parade down I don't think you were. I don't think you were. This is when I. These folks will bring wagons. They still have it. This is the first time I realized how odd it is. I feel bad. I remember if they could put a bridge.
public hearing item 7C, receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 16-43 regarding a general plan amendment for 7.95 acres from community commercial to medium density residential, and ordinance 16-44 rezone from SC2 community shopping center zone to planned residential development zone for property located at 2735 West, 7800 South, Hamlet Development. Applicant. David?
Yes, Larry Gardner is here to address the council on this issue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What I would like to do is kind of set context for what the application is, and then since the applicant is asking for a rezone to PRD, that involves a concept plan approval also by the City Council, which is concurrent with the zone change if approved. But I'd like him to discuss the development or the concept development a little more, if that's okay with you. This property is located along 7800 South. The Utah Salt Lake Canal runs directly to the west of it. To the east is the Cow Ranch building. All of this property has been owned by the Diamond family for many, many years. They rezoned it in the late 70s to a commercial zone in anticipation there was a Safeway built there first, and it's gone through several different retail uses. Cow Ranch has landed there in the last few years and seems to be a very successful business for that corner. What the applicant is asking to rezone, and the one thing I want to say is that this is a significant down zone. And it's not very often that property owners or applicants do that, because there is significant value loss from between commercial and residential. But I do believe the Diamonds are here, and they can address that if you're even interested why they're doing it. What a small band of commercial will be preserved right along 7800 South. It's in line with the original Diamond home and the preschool, and so the residential would be primarily in back, or would be in back of this commercial corridor and to the north of Woods Cove subdivision. This is just a site plan. Now, in the general plan, it calls for developing commercial at nodes. And quickly, I think that is how West Jordan, when I was a child, was kind of like Idaho Falls. It drew from a huge area, and people came here to shop. I think the draw to West Jordan, to the commercial areas, has been reduced greatly, probably to a 3 to 5 mile radius. It's not the south end of the valley as it used to be. There's a lot of commercial everywhere in every one of the cities to the south, and so these nodes have kind of organically developed on their own. As you can see, and this is not scientific, this is Larry Gardner looking at a map and drawing circles, and so don't put any major science behind this, but it is reality. It seems like the nodes stretch to a certain point, and most retailers or commercial users want to be on corners. They don't want to be mid-block. It doesn't seem to get the traffic. The node at 3200 West seems to be a little bit larger, and the one at 27 is a little smaller. You can see this property that we're discussing has not received a lot of interest, or at least has not sold over the years. That it's been for sale for at least a decade that I'm aware of. And so as far as the general plan is concerned, it does meet that intent that it would not be violating that node type development prescribed by the plan. Now, it ultimately is the City Council's decision to determine how they want to zone their city and what they want to, how the land use is to be done. And so this is kind of a surrounding residential density. To the north, a little lower at 3.7. This new development that Hamlet Homes is proposing will be about the same as Wood Cove. at 4.7, Wood Cove is 7.5, and then Jordan Point across the canal is much higher at 7. And so it's not the same situation that we just discussed. You don't have large lot next to it's a smaller lots. I think that fight was probably 30 years ago in this area. Now it's really just about the same. And so if you don't have any questions for me, I'd like to turn the time over to Mr. Brodsky and let him discuss his concept plan, if that's okay.
Yeah, we'll have a brief presentation.
Okay.
My name is Michael Brodsky. I'm with Hamlet Homes. I'm the owner of the company. First, I want to point out that Hamlet is both the developer, proposing to be both the developer and the builder of this neighborhood. I want to talk a little bit about our vision of what it is. We see this as a classic infill property. It's surrounded by residential on multiple sides. We left a buffer of commercial along 7800 South. Frankly, it's a buffer from the highly trafficked street to where the residential starts. We have a commercial developer who has already expressed interest in acquiring that strip as we develop out the property. We're proposing a masonry wall along the, let me get my traffic orientation, on the right side of the property between the commercial and the residential will be masonry wall. On the bottom side of the property against the existing shopping center would be another commercial wall. And along the canal would be a 6-foot vinyl fence separating out the canal from the neighborhood. Could we go to the next slide? Yeah. So the community has 2 separate parks, one on each end of the community. In one of the parks, we will be building a neighborhood playground. In the second park, we see it as kind of a dog park with some benches in it. The entire neighborhood would be governed by a homeowners association, and that homeowners association would be responsible for maintenance of the private roads. The landscaping on the lots would be maintained by the association, and the landscaping that we're proposing, what you're looking at is the landscape plan. And we have identified intenser locations of landscaping at high visibility points. So as you come into the neighborhood, there is a cluster of shrubbery and trees. Where you have the backyards of homes facing the street, we've done the same thing to provide a natural buffer. These lots are fully landscaped, so that we will be putting in a sod and sprinkler system on the front and rear yards. One of the things that we've done that's a little unique is that we've clustered the driveways so that each house has the driveways next to each other, and that was designed to, again, provide larger green space along the street, provide a much more attractive neighborhood. Is the next slide yeah. So this is a sample of the homes that we're proposing to build here. We're building a variation of these homes right now in a neighborhood in Holiday. We expect these homes to sell for somewhere in a range of $350,000 and up. They range in size from approximately 3,000 square feet. The largest home that we expect to build in here would be just under 4,000 feet. As Mr. Gardner mentioned, we are downzoning this from a commercial use. One of the impacts of the change in use is on traffic. Historically, this type of a residential neighborhood generates 1/3 to 1/4 of the traffic count that the commercial use that it's currently zoned for would do. I did not do a traffic study for this particular property, but I will tell you that I just finished doing one, and it was Hal's Engineering that did it on our behalf in Riverton, and it was surprising. But the difference between the office park that was proposed on the Riverton site and the residential site was a reduction in traffic by 1/5. We had another community in Draper. Again, we rezoned from a commercial use to a residential, and we did a traffic study there. And again, the impact of changing from commercial to residential also was very significant. If we can go back to the site plan for a moment. Yes, thank you. The two parks that I mentioned as the neighborhood amenities, we're proposing that those parks would be installed as the development work, as the lots and the roads were improved before even the homes were built, so that as we were building houses in here, the neighborhood has the parks to begin with. This is a classic infill site in that there are utilities on all the adequate utilities that we need to develop the site, water, sewer, are right to this property. So we're taking advantage of existing utilities and facilities in being able to build this. We sent out a notice to the neighbors before the Planning Commission, and we spent some time doing a presentation to the neighbors. After we sent the notice out, we didn't get a huge response. I think we had 5 or 6 of the neighbors show up. But at that meeting, they expressed a handful of concerns to us. The one that is most prevalent is in the book that I gave you. If you turn to the first page, my site plan there, you'll see in red on the very bottom of the page, there is an existing pump house right now that pulls irrigation water out of the adjacent canal. Wood Cove has irrigation shares that they use to water their parks. They're very concerned that this not be interrupted. I have written a letter to the president of their association assuring them that whatever was necessary to preserve the pump house and to assure them that there would be no interruption of the irrigation system that they have in place, we will provide as part of the design and engineering of this neighborhood. If there are any improvements that need to be made as a result of developing this to their pump house, we're also offering to do that. There is a proposed 10-foot easement along the property line between our neighborhood and Wood Cove. There's an existing canal pipe that is in the ground, and our easement would cover that canal pipe to assure that they had uninterrupted service. If you could go back one slide again. I want to discuss walkability and connectivity of the neighborhoods, but before I do that, I had just a moment ago an opportunity to talk to some of the neighbors, and they're concerned that I'm standing up here making a commitment to the City Council. I've made this commitment to the neighbors and to the Planning Commission that it is our intention to make sure that their irrigation services are not interrupted in any way by our development. Until I actually have your approval, if you so desire to grant me approval to rezone and develop this, I haven't done the engineering, nor can I do the engineering to demonstrate how we will preserve that. But that will be part of what we intend to do as final engineering on the neighborhood. A second concern that was expressed was right now the neighborhood children use the Diamond property as a route to get out to 7800 South to go to school. And there was a concern about if this was an isolated neighborhood. They couldn't go through this anymore, that the children would have to walk a much more circuitous route to get to the schools. What we've proposed, and it doesn't show on this, but it does show on the plan I gave you, is at the end of our cul-de-sacs, we butt up to their parks. And we're proposing to take a sidewalk from our cul-de-sacs directly into their park to provide them access from their neighborhood into our sidewalks. This would provide them a direct route right from the middle of their community to give them the opportunity to walk on the sidewalks through Applecross to get to 7800 South. I talked about that. I believe I've covered most of the salient points about this. I would hope you had some questions for me.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. Quick question, what is the size of the lots that are being proposed here?
The density in here is, as Larry showed you, is 4.7 to an acre. The lots are a minimum 5,000 square feet, and they run between 5,000 and 7,000 square feet.
So very small lots, relatively speaking.
This is according to your medium density.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. Just one question. You excuse me, you talked about HOA. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, you did.
In that case, because I've seen some others, developments like this that we've actually gone on tours of where they gated the community. Is that a possibility on this since it's so close to one of the busiest roads in the valley?
We are proposing to fence 3 sides of the neighborhood, and the only side that's not fenced is the portion that's contiguous to Wood Cove. And the fencing on the bulk of it is a masonry 6-foot-high wall. As far as a gated neighborhood, we were not planning on doing that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll open the public hearing now.
Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, we'll open the public hearing. Any members of the public wishing to address us now would be the time. Please.
Alexandra Ephraimo, 3735 Judd Circle. The only thing, it really looks interesting, but the only thing I would comment on is the developer said something about water and grass, sod, and I'm saying I am recommending very limited amount of sod, and to go ahead, we live in a desert, and we should put rock, a lot of rock in there, along with the sod, but I'm just saying I'm against complete sod, and he mentioned, it just sounded like, according to the picture, it's a lot of sod. But I would like to replace that with rock, because, we're not quite sure where our water's going to come from in 10 years from now. But anyway, that was the only comment I had, is that I would recommend putting in more rock along the landscaping. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing, please? Please again state your name and address for the record.
Yes, I'm Ken Diamond. I live at 78, well, that's the point. I live at 7875 South on 2700 West. The property that we're looking at there for rezoning has been in the family since probably 1938. My grandfather owned property up where the airport was. And Salt Lake City came to him and made a proposal that they would take that property up there where the airport was and provide him with property where this property is here around other places. My parents, or my dad and his brothers, in 1976, zoned the property commercial. At that time, 7800 South was supposed to be the main thoroughfare through West Jordan. And as you can see, at that time, and I think it was around 82 or 83, that the state came out and said 90th South was going to be the thoroughfare to the city. At that time, our commercial property, we have had no interest in it whatsoever. We've had it on the market. We really didn't try to do anything with it until probably about 83. But we haven't had any interests at all by any commercial developers. Lowe's was looking at it, but that was looking. And that's been the only one other until Hamlet Homes come to us. We've had a number of people that come in and says, oh, we want frontage. Well, we've got a portion of our property that is already landlocked there. So if we sold frontage only, we wouldn't be able to get into it. And so when Hamlet approached us about this, the families, 2 families talked about it, and we decided maybe this was an opportunity and a time to get rid of the property. And so that's why they are making that proposal. And I think it's a good development. It depends on what you people think. You have the final vote. Planning and zoning said it was fine, but it's left up to you to make that final decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Brown. I'm 7987 South, 2980 West. The president of HOA Wood Cove, that would be directly south of where this development would be. The main concerns, I personally believe in freedom. I believe that they can do whatever they want with their property. I'm grateful that it's going to be houses. Then I mean, it could be apartments, anything like that. My main concerns, though, are we would like an easement. I'm not sure if 10 feet is going to be enough on that easement. I don't know. I was talking with the developer, and that's going to be in people's backyards. Our pump pipes run underneath that. So I'm just concerned about maybe digging up somebody's yard if we ever have problems with that. What I would like to see personally is just that as a giant sidewalk, or just not part of somebody's property, that easement. We also just want to make sure that the easement is legally binding. I've instructed our lawyers to contact the developer, which they have. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to practice law without a license. And then basically we're going to have another board meeting as well, and I'm not sure how the community feels. We do have our fence. It's a chain link fence that butts up against the property. There is a little walkway where 1 or 2 people could kind of squeeze through, and we need to figure out if we're going to close that off or we're going to leave that open. And so that's just our main concern, is basically just that pump house continuing our water. It waters all of our parks from the canal as well.
Thank you. Please.
Meredith Llewellyn, 3839 Maple Leaf Way. This is a surprise to me. I didn't realize that this was also on the agenda, that this community is also in Columbia's boundaries. And in our safe walk plan, we have included, as long as we have on the west side, for a route for those kids from Wood Cove to access Columbia safely. And I really appreciate that Hamlet Homes has done what we were hoping the other people would, and connect the neighborhoods for the children's safety in proposing the 10-foot easement and utilizing it for a walkway for children. That is something that we have asked for many years. So I do appreciate appreciate that they thought of that and that they are looking for the safety of the community in trying to come in to create more. So thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy Summer, I at 7898 South, 2940 West in Wood Cove. I am for this. I really am excited because my backyard is dirt, weeds, and I get all those weeds into my grass, and I'm a single mom trying to fight those weeds, and I'd really like to see this happen, so thank you.
Thank you. I will close the public hearing for item 7C and turn to the council for discussion and on a motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a couple items with this I like, a couple things that I'm not sure of, and a couple things I hope for. First of all, looking at the connection, proposed connection, this is just on the first page of the handout. You see it better on the handout than you do with what's on the screen right now. But where the subdivision is proposed to connect to 7800 South, it looks like it lines up pretty closely with Sunset Way. I'm assuming when they work with development, Sunset Way is just opposite on the north side of 78. I'm assuming that when they work with development, we'll be sure that they line up appropriately so we don't have any offset intersections. So that's what I'm hoping for, number one. Number two, I'm not a fan of zoning away commercial. That said, I recognize where they're coming from, having tried to sell the property for years. In the past, I've said no to rezones that were primarily because of what I saw as a short-term market issue, which for the developer may have been long-term if it was 5 to 10 years, but I'm thinking more like 50 to 80 year, what's going to be happening, where things are going to go. Long-term, once we have Mountain View Corridor connected all the way to 201, I would expect that we'd see more traffic flow on 78th going to Mountain View because it'll connect into the freeway system a little bit better than it does right now. I think we'll see more traffic in the future. I think there might be more of a demand for commercial. Still, this isn't the best place to take advantage of that. So I think this is still kind of an odd infill parcel, but it does kind of isolate a couple pieces of commercial property. Again, going to the handout, not what's on the screen. You've got, actually, do we have this in that slideshow somewhere in that slide deck? This is the one that, yeah, there we go. So you can, I wish it was rotated a little bit better, but what you're seeing right here is you've got the existing home, and then just to the east of that, so just down on the, sorry, shoulder for right there. Yeah. So down on, just west of the road, proposed entrance, you've got this one piece of commercial property. I have to wonder how this is going to connect when this is eventually developed. Is this going to be another entrance to 78? So you have a driveway to this commercial property and then a street, or would folks be connecting off of this street?
No.
And where this is said to be part of an HOA, would the HOA be maintaining this entrance as well?
It would connect into this road. We're not going to have a connection here and then a connection here.
And then same thing with the property to the east? Would that also be?
This is, yes, you're correct.
Okay. And then that stub, or that entrance, is that going to be maintained by the HOA? So they would effectively have to maintain an entrance to the two commercial properties?
There's no reason the commercial pieces cannot be involved in that HOA also.
So those pieces aren't included in what's been proposed, or it doesn't seem like they are. Are they included? Or?
The rezone is right at the boundary you see here.
But those parcels are owned by the Diamonds as well. It could be included as part of the HOA.
The overall property is almost 9 acres. The whole 9 acres is owned by the Diamonds. They're just proposing to rezone close to 8 acres of it. So leave 1 acre out.
So I realize that question extends a little bit beyond just the question of rezone, but I want to make sure that that's addressed as well. Same with the irrigation, to make sure that that can be addressed with development.
Yeah, the irrigation, that will not be an issue at the subdivision process. We'll just make sure the appropriate easement and engineering's done at that time that it will work. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I 100% agree with the amending of the future land use map to medium density residential here. I think that's absolutely the right use for this land. I absolutely do not agree with the planned residential development. I don't think it meets the intent of the code for planned residential development. The intent of the code, 13.5C-1, says it's the purpose of the planned residential development zone is to encourage imaginative, creative, and efficient utilization of land by establishing development standards, yada, yada. I don't see this as creative or imaginative. I see this as, let's see how much we can pack in here on, Mayor, I move to extend the meeting beyond 9 o'clock.
Have a motion? A motion by Councilmember Jacob, second by Councilmember Haga. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, then.
Myself opposed. I would prefer to limit it to 9:30.
Oh. I don't think we can talk that fast. But I'll try. Okay, here we go. No. I think an R18 would be appropriate here. The property to the south is R110. I recognize that you get a little denser as you get closer to commercial. However, I think this is too dense. I think it's too many homes. Also, another thing that bothers me is the placement of the parks, especially the one to the southeast, having almost no street frontage. It'll basically be a backyard for those 3 homes that are to the west of it, and nobody else will feel like using it because it's behind those 3 homes. The other one is a little bit better on the northwest corner, but again, we have the same problem there. An imaginative use would be to tie the parks into the existing parks that are to the south, and stretch that all the way through. So those are my concerns with this. I absolutely love the idea of medium density residential here for the development of the property. Absolutely, it fits, but the PRD zone, in my opinion, does not fit. Thank you.
Just as we discussed this, bear in mind that this is a zoning change only, and this is concept plan only. We're not approving this plan. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that based on the information and findings set forth in the staff report and upon the evidence and explanations received today, I move that the City Council amend the future land use map from community commercial to medium density residential and rezone the 7.95 acres from SC2 zone to PRD zone on property located at 2735 West, 7800 South.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Burton and a second by Councilmember Haga. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I would offer an amendment to just separate the two into separate motions so that we can amend the future land use map and then address the zoning as a separate issue the way the Planning Commission did as well.
I'd be agreeable to that. Can we do that in half hour?
That would be required. That would probably require withdrawing the motion and making a new one. I'm happy to make the one if you want, or you can do both.
Please.
So I'll offer a substitute motion.
Please.
A substitute motion would be to approve the future land use map. I don't have the motion up. To approve the change to the future land use map from community commercial to medium density residential.
I'll second. A motion by Councilmember Jacob and a second by Mayor Rolfe. Discussion of the motion. That's all. Oh, excuse me.
Just a point of clarification. So just one more time, would you repeat the change?
Sure.
Mainly the change in what we're doing here.
Sure. This is changing the future land use map from community commercial to medium density residential and not addressing the zoning until we do this first.
Thank you, Mayor.
That's all.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Mayor Rawl?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Aye.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. The vote passes 6 in favor.
Councilmember Burton.
Okay. I move that we, find down here. Okay. Rezone from SC2 to PRD at a property located 2375 west, 1700 south.
Second. A motion by Councilmember Burton, a second by Councilmember Hagan. Discussion to that motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Mayor Rawl? Mayor Rawl?
Yes.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
No.
Vote passes 5-1 in favor.
Mayor, may I interrupt just for a quick moment?
Please.
The applicant handed out a document, there were only 6, and Ms. Briggs did not get a copy. Would one of you mind surrendering yours so it makes the record complete?
Oh, he's got
Got one right
it.
here. Public hearing item 7D, receive public input and consider for approval ordinance 16-45 adopting West Jordan Impact Fee Facilities Plan and Impact Fee Study dated September 26, 2016, prepared by Tischler Bice Incorporated. Steve Blaine.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Periodically, the city likes to update its impact fees to match the changes in development trends. The last time our fees were changed was 3 years ago, 2013. We've been working with a consultant, Tischler Bice Incorporated, over the last several months to create a new impact fee study. We've gone through several drafts. We've had a meeting with several builders and developers. They've given us some input. We've revised our drafts again, and staff is comfortable with the latest version of the impact fee study. We have our consultant here, Malcolm, representing Tischler Bice, who will give a brief presentation and answer any questions that you have. Just keep in mind that if council does choose to adopt the plan as written, that's just the first step. We'll need to come back in a future meeting to actually implement fees and change the municipal code and the fee schedule. But this is just the first step of adopting the document, which is required by state code.
Thanks, Steve. Good evening, Council. Thanks for having me. My name is Malcolm Winkitrick. I'm a fiscal and economic analyst with Tischler Bice out of Bethesda, Maryland. We work primarily on land use economics, development finance work, fiscal impact analyses, impact fees, economic impact analysis, et cetera, et cetera. We work around the country. We were tasked with updating previous work we've done for the city on impact fees, taking a look at parks, fire, police, water and wastewater, storm drainage, and transportation. And what I'd like to do tonight is give a quick overview of our findings. You'll note that there's, I think, maybe 80 pages of fee and IFFP in your packet, and this is a rather dense subject, so I'd like to keep it high level, appreciating the fact that you all are going over time right now. So just a brief refresher on impact fees. Impact fees are meant to cover new development's fair share of infrastructure needs for a community. They can only be used to pay the cost of building new facilities and improvements required to serve that new development. That's an essential nexus required by federal law. They can't be used for maintenance, operations, those types of costs. They can be used to recoup the cost of constructing facilities that build excess capacity into the system and that new development is buying into. But they can't be used to correct existing deficiencies unless there's a specific funding plan. In other words, you can't improve your level of service for various types of infrastructure with impact fees. You can only use them to maintain your current level of service in the face of new development. So just the basic methodology of impact fees. For all of these, we look for the demand units per development unit, whether it's a single family or multifamily residential unit, or commercial, industrial, non-residential per 1,000 square feet is typically the increment that we use. So in the green circles, you'll see this is an example for a transportation fee. We'd look at VMT, or vehicle miles of travel per development unit, based on ITE standards, Institute of Transportation Engineers. And we multiply that by the infrastructure units per demand unit. So, in the case of transportation fee, it'd be arterial lane miles per vehicle mile of travel, and then times the capital costs, and that's a fee component. We do this for all of the fees that I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation. As I mentioned earlier, you have to establish an essential nexus between new development and the need for the infrastructure. So we look at the need, the benefit, and the proportionality of the fee to what's being delivered to new residents or new non-residential development. And there are three general methodologies we use: plan-based, cost recovery, and incremental expansion. Cost recovery is typically used in situations where you've built a structure that you, or a piece of infrastructure that you intend to oversize for future growth. So you'll see that we have a few examples of that in this fee update. Incremental expansion focuses on sort of the present day. It's a formula-based approach. We document the level of service with quantitative and qualitative measures, and the essential argument there is, okay, say you have one new single-family unit coming in, what would it cost to maintain your current level of service for that new single-family unit? Finally, a plan-based approach focuses on future plans. It's common for utilities. You'll see that we've done that for water and wastewater, as well as transportation and stormwater, for that matter. But this is an appropriate methodology when you have specific plans, engineering plans with costs that you feel confident in. Perhaps a growth share has been calculated, and so that's when we would use the methodology. The next step, once we've calculated sort of a large fee, is to evaluate the need for credits. There are a couple, well, there are really two main types of credits. One is a site-specific credit, and one is sort of an overarching debt service credit. Site-specific credit would be, say a developer comes in and builds a neighborhood park for a subdivision. You want to credit that contribution to the city's infrastructure against the fee, which would have, park component. So we can calculate that specifically to that development. Or you can do, say, debt service credit where, you have already built a large community park. You floated some debt for it. You understand that the entire community is going to be paying off that debt, say, GO bond with their property taxes. And so we do sort of a net present value calculation on the principal and subtract that from the overall fee amount, just to ensure that there's no double payment. So you're not charging new development on the front end with the impact fee and then later through property taxes. So here are the methodologies that we've used for the fees in this update. Parks, we've taken into consideration land acquisition and development, recreation improvements and trails, and those would be on an incremental basis, as well as the planned recreation center. For fire, we've taken a look at Station 54 and done a cost recovery methodology on that to help you recoup money to pay off the debt on it. And then apparatus is incremental expansion for non-residential development only, and that's a product of the State Impact Fee Act. Police is an incremental expansion on police station space. Water is planned wells and pump stations, reservoirs, and down on a line. We've done a debt service credit for wastewater on the water reclamation facility, as well as collection system improvements as planned. So in other words, we're developing an IFFP, an impact fee facilities plan, and delineating what improvements you need to make, and that's sort of the plan-based approach. Stormwater culverts, there I believe is one culvert in there that we're doing cost recovery. The rest are system improvements calculated with a proportionate share methodology. And finally, transportation. These are all plan-based as well, with the exception of a few developer reimbursements that we've worked with capital facilities to do a cost recovery approach on. So here are your current fees. You'll see that Parks is only charged to residential, and that remains the same. Water and sewer are charged on a per meter basis. Storm drainage is calculated per acre basis. That's pretty typical for large scale developments. And transportation. The changes here are that Parks fees have increased. We've added land acquisition back in for neighborhood parks for that category. Based on feedback from developers, we took out the land acquisition component for community parks on the assumption that you already have enough community park land to develop as it is. So you still get money for developing that land, but the land acquisition component was taken out, and staff supported that decision. We've also included a planned component for recreation centers, so that's increased the fee as well. Fire has decreased. The fee previously was based on an incremental expansion approach. Now you're doing cost recovery on Station 54, so the fee goes down a little bit. And the fire suppression apparatus is for non-residential development only. We think that that was a change to the State Impact Fee Act, so we've adjusted our methodology accordingly. For police, we're seeing decreases for residential and commercial and industrial categories. We changed the methodology for this. So for allocating costs among land uses, what we did previously was calls for service. Now we're using a functional population calculation. I won't get into that, but that's in your packets. We've also seen a decrease in that fee because there's increased debt service credit to prevent the double payment on Station 54 at the police substation. Water and sewer, these fees are increasing slightly. We've really overhauled this fee methodology to be a capacity-based methodology in the past. The sort of divisor for this fee was projected demand. And with this new methodology, you can keep collecting on large-scale water and sewer investments well beyond the 6-year IFFP horizon. You just redo the fee study, and you can keep collecting fees on that in a fair and proportionate manner. Storm drainage has increased for residential and decreased for non-residential categories since the last fee study. There's a new IFFP cost base, which of course plays into it, but we've also adjusted dwelling unit per acre and impervious surface percentages for residential, and FAR, floor area ratio, and impervious surface percentage estimates for non-residential to better reflect your current zoning ordinance. And finally, transportation fee is also decreasing. Compared to the last IFFP, you have far fewer road projects in this IFFP. There's some big ones, but not quite as much as what was included in the last one. We've also added in some developer reimbursements for cost recovery, as well as some intersection improvements. So you can start using impact fees to pay for those. Here's a proposed fee summary. You'll see in the red here, we've added at the request of staff a few additional categories. Typically, we try to keep the fee schedules as simple as possible for an administrative purpose. It sort of eases the administrative burden. But these were requests from staff. They didn't want to, my understanding is that they were getting a lot of requests for custom impact fee calculations, some of which we were doing for these categories. So it just made sense to include them in the actual fee schedule to sort of expedite that process when they get applications in. You'll see a slight increase, say, for single family. I'll bring up the comparison here. Here are the proposed fee changes. So single family is going up by $607 per unit. Multifamily is actually going down slightly. That's a product of persons per household persons per housing unit calculations we did in our demographic and land use assumptions. Those are detailed in the appendix of the study. And then for the most part, commercial fees are going up per 1,000 square feet. You'll see those 2 decreases at the lower end of commercial. That's simply a function of decreasing everything but the water and sewer. And then as you get up in meter size, it sort of recoups those decreases and you see an increase again. I should note that for single family and multifamily, well, in fact, for all of these categories, the stormwater fee, which is typically charged on a per acre basis, we sort of modeled in a typical fee per 1,000 square feet or per unit on the residential side. So that's sort of what you're looking at for the proposed fee changes, and I'd be happy to, except I know that was a lot, be happy to answer any questions.
Councilmember Jacob.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel like I'm talking a lot tonight. Quick question for you. The rec center calculation into that, how large of a portion is that? I mean, once you put that in with everything else into the parks, I assume one into the parks, right? Part of the impact fee. Do we know what portion of that parks impact fee is attributed to that rec center?
Yeah, so if you turn to page 16, and I don't know if you have it handy, but basically figure 14 in the study, you can see the proposed park impact fee in that breakdown. So the recreation center is $308.96 per person cost. So those numbers at the top of that figure all per person costs, and then they're multiplied by the persons per housing unit to get the proposed fee. But the recreation center is about $308 of the total $948. So
okay.
About a third.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just have one question on the transportation.
Sure.
And the thing I'm concerned about is the east-west corridors in our city. Even though they may not be in the 6-year plan, the added population to our city over the next few years is going to dramatically impact our east-west corridors in our city, and I'm having a hard time swallowing that you're showing a decrease on the transportation side.
Yeah, fair enough. These fees are the maximum supportable fees based on what's in your capital plans right now. So we need to have some defensible basis for the fees, and our basis for transportation and plan-based and other plan-based fees are these capital plans that you have. And so we worked with staff to try to identify the projects that were growth-related, and these were the ones that we found. Now, you're constantly updating your capital plans, and these fees are due to be revisited in just 2 years. At which case, all the projects that qualify for the 6-year IFFP horizon will have changed as well. I should clarify that the 6-year IFFP horizon is by statute. The enabling statute, the state impact fee requires a 6-year time horizon. So by that time, perhaps some of those projects will have come online for your capital planning, and then they can be used as part of the cost basis for the fee.
I promise you they will. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you. So I noticed for residential, stormwater fee has gone up, commercial has gone down. Is that a result of some changes we did on our costs a couple years ago?
So the biggest reason that occurred is because we changed the dwelling units per acre and floor area ratio assumptions in the study to more accurately reflect what's coming online today. So you're seeing basically more of the impervious surface area in the city. The proportionate share that's coming from non-residential is higher than it was before. So the proportionate share of the costs of your stormwater IFFP are being allocated to non-residential development.
I see. And then if we are taking out some money for something we had in our 6-year plan, and we ended up doing that in the 6 years, do we have to refund the money?
Yes, yeah, you do.
Thank you.
Guess that's all the questions. Thank you.
Thanks. Thinking through your question, I want to nail that down a little bit further. What you would have to refund is if, say, you were to collect, say, let's take parks again. Land acquisition, if you collect the fee and you got a land acquisition component for neighborhood parks, and then you didn't build any neighborhood parks, because it's a citywide fee, yes, you'd have to refund there. But when it comes to, say, collection projects for sewer, you didn't build a specific project. You might have built another collection project for sewer. Then, in that case, you wouldn't have to refund. Of course, you know, again, you've heard this refrain. I'm not an attorney, but you wouldn't have to refund in that case because you've collected a fee based on a component, and you've used those impact fees to build another project that falls within that same umbrella of components. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Actually, one more question.
That just brings up a question for me as well. So how broad or how narrow is that scope? In other words, so go back to parks. If we collect this parks impact fee that is broken out on figure 14 here, but we don't build a rec center or build a new regional park, for example, does that qualify?
No.
Okay, so then we would have to refund the rec center part.
Yeah, you would. Those are deemed in best practices for impact fees to be separate services that you're delivering to the public.
Perfect, thank you.
Council? Oh, yeah. We'll now open the public hearing for item 7D. Anyone here wishing to speak on this item, now would be the time. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing for 7D and return to the council for discussion and or motion. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Unless there are comments, I'm ready for a motion.
That would be in order.
I move to adopt the 2016 Western Impact Fee Study and Impact Fee Facilities Plan completed by Tischler Weiss.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Burton. Discussion of the motion, Councilmember Haga.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a point of interest. You know, I had a resident who wanted to hear this that's trying to get in the front door and it's locked. So it's just FYI. But I think that I would be opposed to this motion because this is a detailed report, and frankly, I'd like a little more time to study it. But if there's a majority of council that concur to adopt it, I'll agree to that. But I think it's complex and needs a little more study, at least from this councilman's perspective. Thanks.
So, excuse me, Councilmember Burton.
I totally agree. It needs a great deal more study because there's a lot of in-depth in there. And my idea is that we accept this plan so we can study it to adopt the plan. We're not adopting it. We have put this plan into force. We know what to put in force.
Or any fees.
To change the fees.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to concur with what's been said before, I recognize that we had 3 other public hearings, quite a bit of documentation. This one, then there's a number of business items as well. But I'm still supportive of this because this is just adopting the study and wouldn't be changing anything. As was pointed out by staff, it's a separate item to adjust any fees. So, thank you, Mayor.
Let's vote.
Councilmember Jacob?
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember Haga?
Abstain.
Mayor Rowe?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-1 in favor.
Mayor?
Yes.
If I may make a suggestion, based on the timing that we still have a closed session, I'd recommend we visit from the consent calendar item E, and then the business item 8C, and then table remaining items until our next council meeting. Not a motion or a recommendation. I'd be curious to hear what others think, if we'd like to continue on or...
I'm okay with that.
Which consent items?
60. And which business item?
Both consent items.
Both consent items? Yeah, just, I'll do mine.
Okay.
And which business item?
And then do
D?
8C?
Correct, 8C.
8C.
Unless...
Let's move to that point, and then we'll see what time it is.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mayor.
Anybody opposed to taking those items out of order? Seeing no one, that's what we will do. We'll take personal privilege, and we will move to consent item
E.
E. Approved Resolution 16-151, authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment number 2 to the professional service agreement with Stantec for the Varnish Wash Detention Basin relocation project in an amount not to exceed $310,420. Councilmember Burton.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question on this. My question is, if this is for the rec center, which I am assuming it is, shouldn't that be cost with the rec center instead of having cost separately?
Please, Dave.
Would you like me to address that?
Dave.
This is for the road on 8600 South. This is design work in order to build the bridge. The bridge comes separately as a road project and is standalone. So this is also in an effort to design the project so that we can get accurate cost estimates and put that before the legislature to get funding. So that is the reason to move this segmentally ahead of the rec center project.
Thank you. Very good. That was really all I wanted to know, so I move that we approve consent item E. 6E. Thank you.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Burton and a second by Councilmember Rice. Discussion of the motion? Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Mayor Rawl.
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember Rice. Aye. Vote passes 6 in favor.
Consent item 6H. Approved Resolution 16-154, authorizing the mayor to execute a real estate purchase agreement between the City of West Jordan and Urban Chase Property Management, LLC, for 6.73 acres of surplus property located at approximately 7800 South and New Sycamore Drive. Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I had actually excluded this one from the items I wanted to revisit. I don't necessarily want to deny it, but I'm not ready to approve it since it is dealing with purchase or divestiture of real estate. I think there's some items that we need to discuss in a closed session before any action happens, so I'm not ready to make any motion at this time.
So you're moving to table this item?
Yeah, I can make that motion. I move to table consent item H, which is resolution 16-154.
So I have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Haga. Discussion to the motion. Councilmember Jacob.
Just a question, until the next meeting or until date uncertain?
Date uncertain.
Thank you.
Discussion? Let's vote.
Councilmember Rice. Abstain. Councilmember Jacob.
Aye.
Mayor Rawl.
Yes.
Councilmember Burton.
Yes.
Councilmember Haga.
Yes.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Aye.
The vote passes 5-1 in favor.
Okay, business item 8C, discussion and possible action regarding ordinance 16-46, approving a temporary land use ordinance not to exceed 6 months to temporarily disallow the filing of applications for zoning map and land use map amendments in the Pioneer District located in the southwest part of the city. Mark?
Thank you, Mayor. Several months ago, we created a new RDA. It was based on us trying to locate Facebook into a 232-acre piece, but we actually selected a larger piece so we wouldn't come under the mandate of the new rules governing RDAs, which would call for a 10% set aside for moderate income housing. We were successful in doing that by just a number of hours. In that Facebook has now been terminated from our horizon. We would like to make sure that there are no other submittals for use of that property until we can do a proper master plan. And we'd like to do that with a full 1,700 acres. This is a 6-month hiatus for staff to come back with something that makes some sense for you.
Thanks. I also asked Duncan to give a presentation as well. That's just from the legal side, just so we understand.
This is an ideal example of where planning of whole districts within your city helps to bring forth purposes that are envisioned by your general plan. This is also an opportunity for you to ratify the planning that you've done for this particular district. 1,700 acres, it's a big area, it's 2.5 to 3 square miles. The center of the area is New Bingham Highway and U-111, that intersection. It's a remote area. It's the very southwest corner of your city. It borders on South Jordan. As the city manager indicated, it's a very important part of the community. It's been identified as an economic development area. We refer to it as the Pioneer Technology District. There have been some capital facilities plans for the area that identify the infrastructure, the current and future infrastructure. Because it's in a remote area and because there are certain types of uses envisioned currently by your future land use map and current zoning, that could all be thrown off, as the city manager says, if we have a flurry of additional amendments for zoning map and general map changes. Because you as a council, as well as your planning commission and your public through the general plan process, have identified this as a key area, you want to lock it in. You want to be able to have staff come back with other options for fulfilling the plans for this area. This is a perfect opportunity for what we call a temporary land use ordinance, which is what's before you. The temporary land use ordinance is limited in 2 ways. One, it's just this 1,700 acres, and the scope is also limited, which is you're looking at just not accepting general plan map or future land use map changes, zoning map changes, or other map changes. This ordinance would not affect your ability as a city to initiate your own changes. It's just you're not accepting applications for map changes. It does allow a developer or landowner to come in with any building permit, subdivision plats, or site plan that meets current zoning. So very limited in scope, but very, very important to make sure that you stay focused on your future land use process for this area.
Councilmember Jacob?
Thank you, Mayor. This actually dovetails in nicely with my comments at the beginning of the meeting. As we seek to master plan this area, I would hope beyond hope that we do this well to start with, and that we do this in concert with other stakeholders. Yes, it's our city, but it's also our county, and it's also our state, and it's also our school district, and it's also our state school board. We saw what happens when we don't work together. I think we should develop this master plan as we get there, and this is not necessarily, that's semi-germane to the topic, I guess, but that we work with the Western Growth Coalition and those members that attend that, or encourage members from those bodies to attend that, to work together, because when we don't work together, we may think we have the greatest idea in the world, but if all the stakeholders aren't on board, it doesn't matter, as we just saw played out very graphically. So thank you. Otherwise, I support this.
Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify so that there's no misconception. This area has indeed been master planned. It's included in the general plan, the future land use map. It hasn't been overlooked. We're not starting from ground zero. Rather, we're revisiting what's already been out there and the assumptions that were in place when this was originally master planned, and the revisions that have happened over the years to make sure it's still current. I just want to make sure that that was very clear. It's not that we're starting with a blank slate. We have a lot that's been done in the past. A lot of folks spent a lot of time going through the general plan a number of years ago, and can be somewhat sensitive if it can be perceived that their work is either been ignored or forgotten. But there has been a lot of effort that went into this in the past. So I just want to be very clear on that. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we send the message that with encapsulating this 1,700 acres, we want to create an EDA with it, an economic development area. So we want to be very clear about that. Motion.
If there's no other comments, I would move to approve ordinance 16-46.
Second. We have a motion by Councilmember McConaughey and a second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion of the motion. Seeing none, let's vote.
Councilmember Haga?
Yes.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Jacob?
Aye.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Vote passes 6 in favor.
I'm just wondering, I believe it's the fourth time these last three items have come up on the agenda, and we've had staff here every time. There hasn't been a decision made any of the other three previous times. We've heard these discussions ad nauseum. I don't think anybody has a lot of discussion is needed on these three. Do you want to move forward with these three before closed session? Or Councilmember McConaughey.
Thank you, Mayor. I think there's a fair amount of conversation still to be had, and given that it's relatively late, 9:40, plus we started early today at 5 p.m., I worry that we might be doing ourselves a disservice if we try and squeeze this in and a closed session. I would be more in favor of moving these to the front of the next meeting, having them be the first business items, rather than trying to squeeze them in tonight. I would think it would probably take us between the three, half hour to an hour, somewhere in there, to go through those. That's just my guess. 20 minutes apiece, 15, 20 minutes apiece, just to give it a cursory overview, unless somebody has in-depth comments. And I know Councilmember Nichols had some strong thoughts, especially on water rates.
How's everybody else feel?
I agree.
Okay. Need a motion to move to closed session.
I move that we move to closed session to discuss character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual, strategy session to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation, and/or strategy sessions to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real estate property, including any form of water rights or shares, and then adjourn from the closed session.
Second. A motion by Councilmember McConaughey, and second by Councilmember Jacob. Discussion of the motion. Councilmember Hagan.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a reference, in the light that I have a new job, and I know possibly that I might have a conflict of interest, because I have no idea what we're going to be discussing. And we don't vote inside. I'm going to recuse myself from this meeting, but I will concur with what the council decides in their deliberations in the closed door. Thanks, Mayor.
Let's vote.
Councilmember McConaughey?
Aye.
Councilmember Burton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hagan?
Yes.
Mayor Rolfe?
Yes.
Councilmember Jacob?
Aye.
Councilmember Rice? Aye. Vote passes 6 in favor.
We will move to closed session and adjourn from there.